Warning, warning, warning. Important things must be said 3 times. This is a show that will make you laugh until you have a six-pack. Those who have just had an appendectomy, suffer from stomach issues, or are severely meme deficient lacking a sense of humor should proceed with caution. A down-on-his-luck young man transmigrates into a strange world. He spends 9 long years burning the midnight oil, studying day and night with single-minded devotion, all to become a brilliant scholar brimming with talent. Then, to his utter bewilderment, he realizes this isn't the world of ancient romance movies. It's a world of cultivation where the streets are filled with magic spells and the sky is thick with flying sword energy. His 9 years of studying the classics instantly went down the drain, rendered almost entirely useless. However, he has a second thought. Isn't this the classic opening of a mindless power fantasy novel? This must mean my talent is unparalleled in the world. He rushes off to get tested, only for reality to give him a resounding slap in the face. It turns out he doesn't have a single spirit root in his body. Utterly devastated, he sits on the ground looking like a loser who just lost his life savings. Just then, a sect master appears. To meet his recruitment quota, this sect master and his eldest disciple plot to bamboozle the young man. However, the war for talent between sects is brutal. Some even resort to honey traps using handsome men and beautiful women. Fortunately, they still manage to hook a big fish like Yi Ping. Furthermore, he doesn't even ask for a salary. Though if the sect is too pathetic to teach him anything real, he plans to bolt at any moment. He probably never dreamed that the generic bottom-shelf sword intent theories the sect master and his disciple made up on the fly would actually be mastered by him through a series of fortunate accidents, turning him into the world's greatest sword god. Opening his eyes, Yi Ping is pale, drenched in sweat and frowning deeply. He realizes things are far from simple. He is transmigrated, following the trope of someone bringing modern knowledge to get rich and famous. This is despite the fact that everyone around him is staring with wide eyes, looking at him in terror as if he were a madman. The crowd whispers, "Look, he's on fire." With soaring momentum, Yi Ping uses a brush to write his name on the golden list, dreaming of the leisurely life he envisions. After 9 years of hard work, he has finally completed his studies. But just then, a majestic immortal, radiating a dazzling blue spiritual aura, glides through the air over the heads of Yi Ping and the commoners. He is completely stunned, petrified on the spot, his mouth hanging open for a long time. Soon, Yi Ping wears a frantic "what the hell is this" expression as reality slaps him in the face yet again. He roars, "Girl, what on earth is going on? This world is definitely not." Meanwhile, the system smugly appears as if to mock him. With a flick of its finger, it confirms an input error regarding the world's setting. "No big deal, just try again." "Good luck." Yi Ping immediately collapses to his knees, radiating a thick aura of resentment. Covering his face, he wails, "Do you know what I've been through these past 9 years? Stop messing with me. I don't want to study anymore. Who would study books when you can become an immortal? Wah?" His outburst causes the people around him to turn back and stare in curiosity. Suddenly, a nerve in his brain seems to connect. Though his face is still blank with shock, Yi Ping discovers something. Wait. Transmigrating into a cultivation world, isn't this the opening to those classic brainless novels? He then shouts excitedly, which means my talent must be ridiculously strong. As time flies, Yi Ping decides to prove his fantasy. Thus, at today's spirit testing assembly held in a place shrouded in mist like a fairyland, Yi Ping stands before the spirit testing monument, surrounded by stone dragons ready to test his spirit roots. Then he is once again abandoned by the heavens. The monument coldly displays a few words, "No spirit root." He is speechless. The last shred of his fantasy about the cool cultivation world slips through his fingers. He clutches back tears that flow like a flood and shouts indignantly, "Damn it, I want to go back to Earth. This transmigration is nothing like the novels." The surrounding cultivators cover their mouths to hide their laughter, shrugging in mockery of this loser named Yi Ping. This fatal blow leaves him with nothing to live for. He slumps on the ground, leaning against the railing, looking up at the sky and muttering to himself, "Wah, and here I thought I was the protagonist." Suddenly, an old man walks over and asks, "Young friend, do you wish to cultivate and become an immortal?" Hearing this, he looks over in shock, puzzled by the coincidence and feeling suspicious. Sometime later, at another location, the Qingyun Taoist sect, a house built on a mountaintop, overlooks white cranes flying leisurely. The sect master, Taoist Taihua, has a grim expression as he says seriously to the person before him, "Changyu, your master has a mission for you." The next second, his attitude takes a 180-degree turn. With snot and tears, he grabs the young man's shoulders and cries out in feigned sorrow, "My good disciple, you must help your master with this big favor." The eldest brother, Su Changyu, is completely unmoved by Taihua's theatrics. He picks up a cup of tea, smiles slightly, and asks calmly, "What big matter could there be for an obscure bottom-tier sect like ours?" But Taihua covers his face like the kid from Home Alone meeting a burglar, complaining bitterly, "The higher-ups just issued a new policy. They're going to shut down bottom feeders like us unless we recruit 8 qualified disciples within a year and get promoted to a grade 3 sect." Hearing this, Su Changyu remains composed. Sipping his tea, he suggests, Then just find one more person. However, Taihua is overcome with grief, remembering how he knelt like a dog while other sects flaunted their power. He laments, "It's not that easy. I went to the testing assembly yesterday and every sect was fighting like crazy for people. The prices were astronomical. I even begged people, saying don't go, let's talk some more. But those warriors who just finished their spirit tests wouldn't even give me a glance, looking at me with pure disgust. HMPH, trying to recruit a disciple for 3 taels of silver a month? Are you feeding a beggar?" He then recounts how he was physically intimidated by a female cultivator using her ample assets, indignantly accusing her of shamelessly using a honey trap. At the time, that female cultivator was holding a young lad whispering sweet temptations, "Junior brother, come practice dual cultivation with senior sister." It made the kid turn red as a beet while everyone else watched with envy and hatred. Nevertheless, when one door closes, another opens. Taihua found Yi Ping in a neglected corner questioning his life, he continues. "But in the end I managed to pick one up." Su Changyu can hardly believe it. Looking at his masters, "I found a treasure face," he asks. "Wait, master, he really chose us?" Recalling this, Taihua shouts with deep emotion, "Even though he's a total rookie with no spirit roots, it's good enough that someone was willing to come. Most importantly, he agreed to work without a salary." Yiping's eyes had been sparkling like stars, ignoring the people nearby who were flipping him the bird. He had clasped his hands and answered excitedly, "Money is just a worldly possession. As long as you can teach me cultivation, I'll agree to anything. I shouldn't just think about what the sect can do for me. I should think about what I can do for the sect." Sitting before Su Changyu now, Taihua tries to convince his eldest disciple. "Changyu, don't you think he's a bit of a fool? No, wait, where else could you find such a compliant disciple? But I'm worried that once he sees how dilapidated our sect is and realizes he's not learning anything, he'll probably run off. So your master has come up with a brilliant plan." His aged but determined eyes glint with calculation as he declares confidently. "Simply put, we pretend to be peerless masters. You take your junior brothers and sisters and make up some impossible nonsensical techniques to teach him. We stall for time. Once the sect is saved after a year, he can stay or leave as he pleases." After listening, Su Changyu picks his ear, blows away the debris and says disdainfully, "PSH, I thought it was some world-shaking matter that made Master so serious. It's just flexing, isn't it?" He stands up, squints, and asks Taihua a seemingly random trivial question. "Master, do you know what nickname the junior brothers and sisters have given me in private?" The old man looks bewildered. "What nickname?" Su Changyu's bright phoenix-like eyes lower slightly. Su Changyu frowns and replies, "This disciple is humble." He poses dramatically, flicking his robes and letting them flutter in the breeze, continuing, "The king of flexing of Green Mountain, that's me." This leaves Taihua speechless. As if remembering something, Su Changyu strokes his chin and looks to the left. "When it comes to the art of posturing in this vast Qingzhou province, if I claim to be second, I doubt anyone would dare claim to be first." Having said that, he plants one foot on the table, hands on his hips, and leans back like a narcissistic model, laughing wildly. "You've come to the right person for this. It's my specialty, ha." Seeing Taihua's face turn dark as he internally grumbles, "Is that really something to be proud of?" The old man swallows his pride since he needs Su Changyu's cooperation. He reminds him solemnly, "In any case, Changyu, you just need to successfully stall him for 1 year." However, Su Changyu's eyes are filled with a mysterious confidence. He holds up a palm to reject Taihua's suggestion, leaving the old man confused again. Soon, the Oscar-winning Su Changyu sighs with emotion, "Since I am taking action. The goal of stalling for 1 year is far too low. Dealing with a rookie like him only requires a flick of my wrist." He brags without hesitation, thrusting his hips forward and inexplicably making Taihua look at his heroic stance, promising, "At the very least, I'll make him admire only the Qingyun Taoist sect and not the gods from now on. He'll want to be a Qingyun disciple in his next life too." As soon as he speaks, Su Changyu's nose seems to grow longer from his bragging. He laughs smugly, "Ha ha ha," while Taihua widens his eyes and applauds in amazement. "Oh, it's starting already. Excellent, excellent. The king of flexing of Green Mountain truly lives up to his name." Su Changyu gets even more excited, radiating a shimmering light as he brandishes a longsword. "I'll put it this way, if I fail this mission, I'll dip this sword in sauce and swallow it." He then clasps his hands to bid Taihua farewell. "If there's nothing else, this disciple will take his leave. I'll wait for him at the back mountain tonight." Hearing this, the old man stands up and responds, "Good, I'll use my sword kinesis to fly you back." However, Su Changyu turns and walks away coolly, waving off his master's kindness. "No need," he looks back with a hint of a disdainful gaze. "If you don't see someone for 3 days, you should look at them with fresh eyes. I am no longer that little disciple who needs a ride from his master." After finishing his lines, Su Changyu raises his left arm high, his fingers slowly pointing upward with extreme artistic flair. Seeing this, Taihua's pet owl covers its face in shock and the man himself widens his eyes. "Ah, that gesture, could it be?" On the other side, Su Changyu looks calm, his mouth slightly open as he chants, "May this prosperous world be as you wished." Simultaneously, he roars, "Sword, come." A dazzling beam of light shoots from his fingertips. His pose is incredibly majestic. Even Taihua has to look at Su Changyu in a new light, his pupils contract, his jaw nearly hits his chest and he exclaims, "Wow, it really is sword kinesis, how is this possible?" He's clearly a sword path loser who couldn't learn a single set of techniques in 10 years, however. After a long while, seeing him still holding that pose and basking in self-satisfaction, Taihua begins to sweat. A final falling leaf drifts past Su Changyu's fingers, which are devoid of any spiritual energy. The faces of Taihua and the owl turn sour. Though he knew this disciple was unreliable, he was still fooled by the superb acting. The old man asks despondently, "Don't tell me you?" Su Changyu instantly breaks character, scurrying back to explain, "Haha, I couldn't help but flex again. I don't know sword kinesis at all, I'll still have to trouble master to give me a lift." Taihua rubs his temples, radiating an aura of resentment, sighing, "What a character, I just hope your new junior brother isn't driven mad by you." Late at night at the peak of the back mountain, the mist clears, revealing a bright, clear moon, perfect for some mystical posturing. Su Changyu stands at the summit like a lone wolf gazing at the distant moon, accompanied only by a few white cranes. However, at this moment, wearing his top 500 of the Qingzhou Sword Assembly Collector's Edition battle robe, he is huddled up because of the biting wind, his nose is frozen red and his whole body is shivering. This location, specifically chosen to create an atmosphere, unexpectedly gave Su Changyu an unforgettable experience of freezing. Despite wrapping his clothes tight, he lets out a loud, ringing sneeze. Suddenly, footsteps approach. Su Changyu looks back and whispers, "He's here, he's here." He grabs his sword and jumps a few times to warm up. "Hey, get ready, get ready." On the other side, Yi Bing climbs the long steps of the Qingyun Taoist sect one by one. Leaning against the cliff face, his legs aching and out of breath, he remarks, "The mountain is so high, immortals really are extraordinary." Once he catches his breath, he looks up and is instantly rendered speechless, before Yi Ping's eyes under the bright moonlight. Su Changyu stands with his back to him, majestic and motionless. His cold, aloof aura is like that of a transcendent, unyielding sword immortal. Yi Ping stood dazed for a long time, staring at the man before him who looked like an immortal descended from the heavens. Su Changyu displayed a radiant profile, casually raising his palm to manipulate a flying sword that crackled with spiritual energy like blue lightning. Overwhelmed by the scene, Yi Ping's eyes widened as he thought blankly, "Is this a sword immortal?" But soon, deep within Yi Ping's mind, the image of a sharp-eyed old fox emerged, his brow furrowed in suspicion. "Wait, something doesn't seem right. If they're recruiting a talentless loser like me who has no spiritual energy, doesn't that mean this sect is actually garbage?" He imagined Su Changyu standing atop a mountain peak that pierced the clouds. With tens of thousands of admiring cultivators at his feet, he continued his analysis. Why would such an extraordinary disciple be here? Suddenly, it was as if dozens of electrical currents flashed through his brain, bringing Yi Ping a moment of sudden enlightenment. His mouth hung open and cold sweat poured down as he realized with a shock, could it be? Then Yi Ping's imagination ran wild, linking the scene to those mysterious faces that radiated the aura of the powerful. He speculated privately. On the surface, this sect looks like a nameless, insignificant entity, but that's not the case at all. Looking again at Su Changyu under the moonlight, even the cranes flying past seemed to carry a golden glow. He muttered to himself, "Is this another one of those super hidden sects?" It wasn't over yet. Yi Ping was so excited he felt like he was going crazy. With stars shining in his eyes, he continued to let his thoughts wander. Everyone in this sect must be a top-tier powerhouse. Any one of them could carry me to greatness. It really seems possible. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit him. He rested his chin on his hand, scrutinizing the situation with a deep gaze. For instance, when he had followed his master into the sect that morning, the image that had surfaced in his mind was of the Qingyun Taoist sect being so dilapidated it looked like it had been abandoned for 10,000 years. As Yi Ping followed Taoist Taihua, he had been secretly evaluating the place. A sense of ruin had hit him full force. He hadn't felt it then, but looking back now, it was definitely over the top. Yi Ping looked around warily, seeing buildings covered in vines, and couldn't help but wonder, even for a cultivation sect, how could it be this run down? Some houses even had peeling walls, yet the bricks and stones were neatly stacked to the side. He pondered carefully, analyzing, even if it's this old and broken, every corner is exceptionally clean. Yi Ping thought of Taoist Taihua again, who had kindly taken him in, a man abandoned by society. He felt it was extremely abnormal. Add to that this Su Changyu, who was world-shakingly handsome. Yi Ping's brow was tightly knit, his eyes as sharp as a master detective's, yet stuck in a deadlock, as he thought in secret terror. Everything about this place is eerie, but if they are intentionally keeping a low profile to remain hidden from the world, then everything makes sense. Having figured it out, Yi Ping's joy returned as if he had found a precious treasure. He shouted, 3,000,000 sword immortals in the heavens, yet they must all bow their heads when they meet me. This peerless aura startled Su Changyu, giving rise to doubt in his heart. Striking a heroic and dashing pose, Su Changyu turned back and marveled, 3,000,000 sword immortals in the heavens, yet they must all bow their heads when they meet me. That has a nice ring to it. Deep down, however, he was snickering. Nice, that's a top-tier flex. That line is mine from now on. Getting too deep into his role, Su Changyu turned and manifested a streak of multicolored spiritual energy to bolster the atmosphere, feeling secretly smug. I didn't expect to stumble upon such a badass poem while out here acting cool. He then said, since my junior brother praises me so, it would be rude not to return the gesture. At that moment, the spiritual energy in his hand suddenly expanded, forming a vortex of light that reflected in his cold red eyes. Su Changyu then waved his hand, blowing that cluster of spiritual energy toward Yi Bing. As it enveloped his body, Su Changyu said, your senior brother didn't prepare much, so I shall grant you a stroke of divine providence. Yi Ping felt a tremor, as if something were invading his body, and he froze on the spot. Su Changyu continued to play it cool, solemnly explaining his actions. I am the eldest senior brother of the Qingyun Taoist sect. This breeze is actually a secret art of creation that can enhance your cultivation talent. Yi Ping was secretly horrified. He was truly the type to be sold out and still help the buyer count the money. A mere breeze can enhance cultivation talent. Wow, how could an ordinary sect manage that? He then sincerely clasped his hands and gave a 90-degree bow, saying, thank you for your great kindness, senior brother. I, Yi Ping, have no way to repay you. Su Changyu meanwhile hid his hand, which was trembling from overexertion and cramping behind his back, while replying, it's a small matter. In reality, he was laughing internally at how stupid Yi Ping was. What secret art of creation? It was just a gust of wind, the most ordinary breeze imaginable, yet on the surface he remained utterly composed and at ease. Su Changyu sat on a rock and spoke, junior brother, before I teach you the way of the sword, let me ask you a question. This left Yi Ping somewhat confused. A question? Yi Ping's head was filled with theories from web novels, and he reacted instantly. He thought of those mysterious heroes in commoner's clothes from his books. Peerless masters always asked a question before imparting secret techniques. Right, that makes sense. While Yi Bing was still fantasizing about thrilling duels between warriors, Su Changyu asked, what is the supreme realm of the sword Dao? He felt very self-satisfied. Like a devious old fox, he thought, he, only a king of posturers like me could come up with such a profound question. Go ahead, answer. No matter what you say, you'll be wrong. Only then will it show how unfathomably deep my understanding of the sword is. When it comes to flexing, I am number one. On the other side, Yi Bing seemed to fall into his own pure white space, contemplating the question of the supreme realm of the sword Dao with extreme seriousness. His villainous persona appeared again, fingers crossed, as he secretly assessed, this question sounds very professional. Yi Ping's teeth were gritted and his brow was furrowed, desperately putting his brain cells to work. A hidden master, he's 99% a hidden master, but how should I answer? This question seems simple, but it actually contains a supreme artistic conception. After a long time he still looked like he would die trying to find the answer, thinking, an ordinary person would probably answer something like, killing a man in 10 steps, leaving no trace for 1,000 miles, but it certainly won't be that shallow. How should I answer? I must be cautious at all costs. Meanwhile, Su Changyu's face began to turn pale and he started sweating. Hey, I just asked casually. You don't need to be this serious. After a full 15 minutes, Yi Ping's brow furrowed even tighter, determined to dig out an interpretation that would leave Su Changyu speechless. Su Changyu was in agony, cursing inwardly, big shot, it's been an hour already. Can you give it a rest? In reality, Su Changyu was almost frozen solid and couldn't keep up the act anymore. Feeling full of grievances, he thought, I'm going to freeze to death. He had no choice but to speak first. All right, give me your answer. But Yi Bing put on the look of a well-behaved child, worried about being scolded by an elder for a wrong answer, and replied, senior brother, I believe that the supreme realm of the sword Dao is when a single blade of grass can cut down the sun, moon, and stars. This statement left Su Changyu stunned, his eyes wide as he doubted his own hearing. He visualized himself waving a blade of grass into a hurricane, then decisively slashing out a magma-like surge of spiritual energy that tore through the sky, whispering in his heart, cutting down the sun, moon, and stars. He imagined a warrior splitting a mountain without any effort. Su Changyu was crying out for his parents in his heart, rolling his eyes as he gasped. Holy crap, Su Changyu had studied the sword for 20 years and the strongest person he had ever seen could only split a mountain with one strike, a blade of grass cutting down the sun, moon, and stars. Just how big of a flex was that? Seeing him frozen in silence, Yi Ping hurriedly waved his hands to explain, does senior brother think it's too exaggerated? I hope you won't take offense. However, while Su Changyu looked calm on the outside, his heart was shocked beyond measure. This kid is something else. Famous quotes were just pouring out of him. A fellow man of culture, this line is great, it's mine too. He then stood up and walked toward Yi Ping to give his judgment. Indeed, it is too exaggerated. The path of cultivation requires one to be steady. You are aiming a bit too high, junior brother. Yi Ping replied awkwardly, I have learned my lesson. Su Changyu's gaze turned cold as a dark aura emanated from him. Drawing his sword with a flash, he said, how about this? He then swung his sword, drawing a graceful arc in the air with an extremely majestic posture. A deep pit with many cracks appeared on the ground. Su Changyu turned to leave, instructing, I am leaving a sword mark for you. This sword mark is both ordinary and extraordinary. He thought of a cultivator who swung his sword like an 8-armed monster, brandishing weapons to intimidate others, and continued, calling it extraordinary. It also contains the world's strongest sword intent. How much you can comprehend depends on your own destiny. I will come back to see you in 7 days. This load of nonsense left Yi Ping completely convinced. He narrowed his eyes and thought happily. The strongest sword intent, he's 100% a hidden master. I'm so lucky, I really did stumble into a hidden powerhouse sect. After a long while, the task of training the newcomer given to Su Changyu by Taoist Taihua was finally complete. Su Changyu skipped down the mountain in high spirits, thinking, quick, I have to go find second junior brother to share this. Suddenly a girl sitting on a rock not far away shouted, eldest senior brother. She leaned back, supporting herself with her hands, and asked with a look of someone expecting a good show, what do you think of the new junior brother's talent? The female disciple of the Qingyun Dao sect possessed a truly majestic figure. Her chest so ample it seemed larger than her head. She squinted her eyes with a smile and waved a greeting. Seeing her playfulness, Su Changyu reminded her with a hint of displeasure, little junior sister, you're peeping again. The female disciple hopped down from a rock with excitement and ran over, exclaiming, hee hee, I was just curious. Suddenly, a domineering thought sprouted in Su Changyu's mind. He was ecstatic to have found a guinea pig, and decided to use her to test his effect. Striking an unfathomable pose with his hands behind his back, he spoke solemnly, junior sister. Let us not speak of that for now, he said. Leaving her confused, Su Changyu's expression turned stern, his gaze sharp as he raised a single finger. Senior brother asks you, do you know the power of the highest realm of the sword Dao? The question stunned the female disciple. She clasped her hands nervously and stammered, she thought to herself, what does the sword Dao have to do with me? Why so serious all of a sudden? Then she heard Su Changyu add, let me tell you what the highest realm of the sword Dao truly is. She stood bolt upright, listening obediently as he pointed toward the Milky Way in the vast universe and declared, a single blade of grass can sever the sun, moon, and stars. As soon as he finished, the female disciple's mouth hung open in shock. She found Su Changyu even more handsome than before and was filled with admiration. Then, breaking into a cold sweat, she asked, eldest senior brother, that was so cool. Has your ability to act the part improved again? He immediately struck a pose of hidden victory, covering his face and laughing, haha, you bet, it was cool, right? After her flattery, the female disciple abruptly changed the subject. Now you should answer my question. This left Su Changyu slightly puzzled. Your question? He turned his head toward the distant mountain peak, repeating with feigned depth, how long will it take junior brother to comprehend sword intent? But in the next second, Su Changyu was picking his nose, his expression looking as if he had stepped in filth. How could he possibly comprehend it? Even I don't know the answer to that. She defended her point. I meant just ordinary sword intent. He let out a long sigh and replied that he didn't know that either. The female disciple's face went dark, her mind filled with question marks. Are you playing with me? She thought resentfully. 2 hours later, at the summit of the rear mountain, Yi Ping was still sprawled in front of the sword mark Su Changyu had left behind. He stared at it intensely, like a scientist observing bacteria through a microscope, drenched in sweat and eyes rolling back. Yi Ping still had no results, he whispered to himself, questioning his life choices. No matter how he looked at it, it was just an ordinary crack. Where is this strongest sword intent? Is he lying to me? Suddenly he squeezed his eyes shut and scratched his head in frustration, shouting out in grievance, Yi Ping, what are you overthinking? Everything before has proven that he is definitely a supreme master. At this thought he pressed his face against the sword mark again. His eyes sparkling, he roared with determination. It must be because I'm not working hard enough. His eyes widened so much they looked like they might pop out as he focused even more deeply on the crevice. Yes, that must be it. Now his eyes saw only the light emanating from the deep groove on the ground. Everything else was pitch black. He encouraged himself, Go Yi Ping, keep going. Until his eyes were bloodshot, he suddenly saw the silhouette of a swordsman radiating blue spiritual energy. An image manifested in Yi Ping's mind. The swordsman stood with his back to him, spiritual energy rippling out from beneath his feet like waves on a pond. The figure held a long sword that glowed with a light as fierce as a thunderbolt from a clear sky, appearing exceptionally majestic. Then the swordsman began to demonstrate techniques. He gripped the hilt with both hands, drawing the sword to his side to gather power. Suddenly he leaped and flipped through the air, his gaze as sharp as fire. The swordsman turned and delivered a swift strike accompanied by the crackle of lightning. With glowing eyes he held the sword in one hand and unleashed another move. Then the swordsman leaped high. Tucking his legs into a pose like a goshawk diving for prey, he slashed out a half-moon sword shadow that resonated like the tolling of a great bell. These 4 sword styles, 12 sword moves became increasingly clear in Yi Ping's astonishment. In his eyes the figure constantly shifted. With one strike the world lost its color, and gods and ghosts alike were startled. At other times, sword shadows layered upon each other, cold light flickering with chilling, killing intent. The more he watched, the more Yi Ping became immersed in this martial secret, unable to look away. Then, as if he were personally drawing a blade to practice, he held a hilt in one hand and supported the blade with the other, using spiritual energy to make it glow with golden light and flying sparks. He didn't practice it once, but over and over again. Yi Ping followed the swordsman's demonstration, swinging his sword to the side while counting in his heart. One time, when he reached the second repetition, he used his left foot as a pivot, standing firm as he swung a Z-shaped sword path. Simultaneously, sword shadows flashed across the sky. Then came the third time. Yi Ping took a step back, turned, and unleashed dozens of arched sword shadows. With a sharp gaze, he focused on swinging the sword with his left hand, mumbling to himself as he moved faster and faster. After a while, Yi Ping's sword shadows were no longer simple beams of light but had formed jagged patterns with even greater destructive power. He gasped. The moves were increasing. 12 moves. 15 moves. He didn't stop at 20. Yi Ping had practiced to a realm where his movements were ethereal and his sword blooms were dazzling, nearly identical to the swordsman in his vision. Finally, a terrifying consciousness flooded his mind, as if dozens of Yi Pings were simultaneously piercing a single point in his brain with their swords. As the sun rose from behind the mountain peak, Yi Ping straightened up, his eyes wide with bewilderment. What on earth is happening? His face turned pale, cold sweat poured down, and his pupils contracted as he deduced it must be eldest senior brother. Recalling the breath of fortuitous opportunity Su Changyu had casually conjured, Yi Ping felt a surge of emotion. I never expected that a single breeze could actually raise my talent to such a terrifying level. He isn't just a peerless master, he's much more. Overwhelmed, he couldn't help but burst into tears. After being unlucky for so long, his fortune had finally turned. I actually doubted eldest senior brother earlier. I really shouldn't have. Without stopping, Yi Ping propped himself up with his hands, staring at the sword mark on the stone. He silently soothed himself. Don't get excited, Yi Ping. Stay calm, stay calm. This is only the beginning. This sword mark can surely teach me even more techniques. Keep working. Time flew by, and 7 days later at the eldest senior brother's residence, a manor situated at the peak of a high mountain, Su Changyu took out a box of treasures he used for keeping up appearances. It was filled with accessories, and he was carefully choosing between them. He picked up a hairpin, scratching his head as he considered if it was suitable for such a momentous day. Then he donned a pure white cloak he had scammed from somewhere, his eyes full of anticipation. Su Changyu hummed a little tune. The weather is lovely today. He flicked the hem of his robe and stepped out, adding time to go look cool. Setting off, Su Changyu strolled leisurely across the wooden bridge spanning the creek, humming incessantly. But by the time he climbed to a certain set of stairs halfway up the mountain, he was panting and drenched in sweat, his refined image long gone. He lamented, "This is killing me. If I'd known, I would have picked a different spot." Su Changyu's face was dark with annoyance, and he vented his anger on others. Then again, why does everyone think practicing the sword is easy? It's so frustrating. He recalled 7 days ago when that gossip-loving junior sister had asked him, "What, you're saying even you don't know sword intent?" To this, Su Changyu had frankly admitted, "That's right." Hearing this, she didn't hide her laughter, covering her mouth and insulting him to his face. "Peeved senior brother, you're too much of a loser. Haven't you been practicing the sword for 10 years? How do you not even know sword intent?" As soon as the words left her mouth, Su Changyu launched a physical attack, giving her a sharp rap on the head. He scolded, "Loser? HMPH, if you don't understand, don't talk nonsense, okay? The sword Dao isn't that easy." The female disciple saw stars from the blow and cried out, "Ouch, that hurts." Su Changyu then imagined those warriors standing atop heavenly thunder pillars to preach their truths. The 4 lightning sword technique your senior brother practices is no loser technique. It's one of the top 10 techniques in Qingzhou. Back then, the Taoist of 4 seasons became famous throughout Qingzhou with this very set. Visualizing the image of 4 dragons, golden, azure, fire, and green, soaring into the clouds together, he continued, "This is a technique of ultimate yang and rigidity, divided into the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. If one can master all 4, they can even summon the heavenly lightning of the 4 seasons." Su Changyu arched his eyebrows and squinted, adopting the persona of a learned Taoist. And each stage of the sword technique is divided into 4 minor realms: initial, proficient, great success, consummate, and finally the pinnacle. As he spoke, the female disciple followed up with interest. "That sounds really powerful. So which level are you at now, senior brother?" Su Changyu tilted his head back, looking smug. "I have already mastered the spring lightning sword, which consists of 18 sword moves." To his surprise, his junior sister looked unimpressed. "Ah, just spring lightning, and only 18 moves?" Su Changyu's face turned bright red with rage. He roared, "What do you mean just spring lightning? There are only 4 major realms in total. My progress would be considered exceptional anywhere in Qingzhou." The exceptional me. Then a progress chart of the 4 lightning sword technique appeared in his mind. Starting from himself, the spring lightning sword had reached 2 stars. The paths to the locked unawakened skills included the summer lightning sword, autumn lightning sword, winter lightning sword, and a hidden treasure of secret techniques. Su Changyu spoke incessantly. "It only took me 10 years to reach the proficient stage. I'll definitely reach great success in less than 10 more, and the pinnacle within 100 years. He stared into her face with bloodshot eyes and lowered his voice. Do you have any idea how strong I'll be then? Scared into avoiding his gaze, she replied. I understand, eldest senior brother. Then the female disciple asked with genuine curiosity, what if junior brother manages to comprehend sword intent on his own? What level of talent would that make him? This gave Su Changyu a jolt of surprise and confusion. Soon he burst into loud laughter, hands on his hips with a look of disdain. Ha ha, sword intent, junior sister, you really have a wild imagination. Su Changyu recalled the long sword that radiated dazzling golden light, a force so impactful that countless people couldn't even get close. He explained, in the sword Dao, sword techniques are only secondary. What truly matters is sword intent. The stronger the sword intent, the more any technique can turn the mundane into the miraculous. Even a casual thrust becomes terrifyingly powerful. He imagined a cultivator standing atop a high mountain, sword intent erupting in all directions, forcing everyone below to look up in awe. He continued, the three great chasms of sword intent are as difficult to cross as ascending to heaven. The first stage is endless sword intent. In all the 10 kingdoms, only one powerhouse has managed to even get half a foot through that door. He is known as the Sword Venerable Taishu, an honored guest of the 10 kingdoms. Hearing this, the little junior sister puffed out her cheeks and persisted. I'm saying what if he actually comprehends it? What level would that be? Su Changyu pointed a finger toward the sky, his expression turning cold. A cold smirk played on his lips as he said, utterly impossible. Never mind, junior brother, even the greatest genius Qingzhou has seen in 500 years couldn't comprehend endless sword intent. At that moment, Su Changyu was laboriously climbing the steps to the mountain summit. Before he even saw the boy, his eyebrows twitched in doubt. I'm here. I wonder if junior brother is even awake yet. However, seeing the other boy kneeling on the ground supporting himself with his hands while pressing his face against the sword mark, Su Changyu was struck with a sudden shock. In his eyes, Yi Bing was staring with massive dark circles under his eyes, fixated on the sword mark he had casually left 7 days ago. This display of willpower made Su Changyu's face turn pale. Cold sweat trickled down as he thought in a panic, holy crap, what's going on? How long has he gone without sleep to get dark circles like that? Looking at Yi Ping's wide, unblinking eyes, he guessed privately, did this guy really stare at this sword mark for an entire week? That thing was just a lie to trick you. Su Changyu tilted his head, feeling dizzy with self-reproach. This makes me look like even less of a human being. What should I do? The guilt is too heavy. After standing there for a long time watching Yi Ping, he felt a wave of pity. Poor kid. For the sake of the sect, I can only let you suffer. I'll work hard to make it up to you later. Suddenly, he heard a gasp. Yi Ping looked up, greeting Su Changyu with his lifeless panda eyes. Eldest senior brother, you're here? Su Changyu, going into full acting mode, immediately adjusted his pose to show off his perfect profile. He asked, how far have you progressed in your practice? Yi Bim stood up, staggering toward him, and answered with a foolish grin, I've comprehended it. It's all thanks to the opportunity you granted me, senior brother. However, before Yi Ping could finish, Su Changyu consoled him. Don't be discouraged. It's normal for an ordinary person to fail to comprehend it. After saying that, he froze, looking baffled. With a face contorted like a monkey-eating ginger, he blurted out, wait a minute, what did you just say? You comprehended it? Yi Ping's face was flushed with excitement. He cupped his hands in a respectful bow and confirmed with his head lowered. Yes, eldest senior brother, including this morning, I have comprehended a total of 400 sword moves. Su Changyu stared at him with flickering eyes, saying nothing as if processing Yi Ping's words. Inside, however, he was rolling on the floor laughing. He pointed at him mentally with disdain. 400 moves, do you think I've never practiced the sword? I just scratched that mark out randomly. Do you think I don't know what's in it? Su Changyu crossed his arms and exhaled, thinking with utter disbelief, this is going to be the death of me. However, seeing this, Yi Ping was bewildered. What does eldest senior brother's cold sneer mean? It felt like a fatal blow to him. Breaking into a cold sweat, he frowned and began to fill in the blanks himself. Is he laughing because I comprehended too few? 400 moves a day really isn't much, is it? I see. For a master like eldest senior brother, the techniques he possesses must number at least in the tens of thousands. The demon in Yi Ping's mind appeared again, deducing deeply. With personal instruction of ready-made knowledge plus the great opportunity he gave me before, anyone with even a bit of talent would surely comprehend thousands of moves a day. The more he thought, the more discouraged he became. 2 streaks of tears fell as he cried out in grievance. Sigh, it's all because I'm too useless. Suddenly, Su Changyu spoke up with a kind smile to encourage him. There's no need to lie. This sword technique is profound. It's normal to not comprehend it fully. I would never look down on you for that, however, Yi Ping stated with absolute certainty. I'm not lying. It really is 400 moves. This ignited a spark of anger in Su Changyu. His brow furrowed as he cursed inwardly. Just stop it already. No one likes someone who has no skill but insists on acting tough. Meanwhile, in Yi Ping's eyes, his eldest senior brother appeared exceptionally terrifying. he thought, trembling with fear. Does senior brother think I'm unworthy of comprehending these 400 sword moves? Yiping then twisted his fingers nervously, squinting as he tried to explain. Although my talent is mediocre, didn't I have the fortuitous opportunity you bestowed upon me earlier, senior brother? While 400 moves aren't many, I was still able to comprehend them. These words caused an uncomfortable black aura to emanate from Su Changyu. 400 moves aren't many, yet another person who looks down upon the way of the sword. At this moment, Su Changyu was truly starting to get angry. Although he wasn't a top-tier powerhouse, he had experienced plenty of the hardships common to ordinary people during his growth. Whether intentional or not, being mocked for slow progress was something that would make anyone feel uneasy. Radiating an unconcealed chill, he arched an eyebrow and spoke. Fine. Since that's the case, demonstrate the sword moves you've comprehended for me. He secretly decided that he had to teach the boy a lesson. It would be for the good of the youth's development. However, Yiping shouted yes without a moment's hesitation, which only served to irritate Su Changyu further. He thought to himself. He actually dared to agree? He's really going to be stubborn to the bitter end. It's going to be hard to save face in a moment. Take it as advice from a master of posturing. A moment later, the two stood atop a mountain peak, with rolling ranges stretching into the distance. Yiping lowered his stance, closing his eyes as he gathered golden spiritual energy into the long sword in his hand. Then he raised it vertically before him, a flash of golden light crossing both his eyes simultaneously. Yiping swiftly delivered a horizontal slash. The spiritual energy illuminated the surroundings. With golden light swirling in his eyes, he demonstrated what he had learned with a solemn expression. Every sword style he unleashed was accompanied by flickering sparks. The sword technique Yiping performed was incredibly fast, flowing like moving clouds and running water. His cold, cyan eyes were locked onto the space ahead. In the blink of an eye, he had already executed 36 styles. Each move was crisp and decisive, the sword momentum surging like a tide, his form following the blade like a shadow. A sharp killing intent was laid bare before Su Changyu. Su Changyu's face was grim as he silently watched Yiping's footwork and his sword hand. He clenched his fists, his gaze never leaving Yiping's dance for a second. Even the whistling wind in his ears couldn't make him blink. In reality, Su Changyu's heart had already turned to cold ashes. He didn't even bother to wipe the snot running from his nose, standing there dazed like a stunned goose. Yiping's sword strikes grew swifter and more ferocious. A blur of sword light followed his agile movements as he demonstrated before Su Changyu. Even after completing 36 forms, he showed no intention of stopping. His eyes blazed with an intense battle spirit, each move enough to strike fear into gods and ghosts alike. Suddenly, Yiping braced one hand on the ground and spun his legs through the air, taking the form of a great rock spreading its wings. By the 108th form, he was surrounded by dense layers of sword shadows and billowing dust which completely enveloped him at the center. He leaped into the air and struck downward, his sword falling like a soul-reaping bolt of heavenly thunder. A massive explosion erupted. Simultaneously, thunder suddenly roared in the heavens, and a terrifying bolt of golden heavenly thunder crashed down before Yiping. This left Su Changyu utterly shell-shocked. Before his eyes, countless electric arcs converged to form a thunder dragon, causing his pupils to contract and beads of sweat to roll down his stiff face. Then a fire dragon gradually condensed from within the heavenly thunder. It opened its massive maw and let out a defiant roar. Su Changyu was all too familiar with this sight. It was an image that had appeared in his dreams countless times. As the thunder dragon fully materialized, it radiated pink spiritual energy and crashed violently toward the point where Yiping's blade was aimed. The dragon's roar was deafening. Su Changyu stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning himself. He looked up at the descending pink radiance, thinking, this roar, while the fire dragon roared in the sky. Yiping continued to brandish his sword on the ground. Su Changyu marveled inwardly, recognizing this as the external manifestation of the four thunder sword techniques reaching the stage of great perfection. His greatest dream over the years had been to practice the spring thunder sword technique to great perfection. To hear a single legendary dragon's roar would make his life worth living, even if he died the next moment. Yet the kid before him had achieved it after practicing for only 7 days. His eyes widened and he stood agape, his heart filled with sheer horror. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. However, the shock was far from over. A green dragon abruptly manifested, its jagged maw gaping wide in the sky. Scant seconds later, another fresh dragon roar rang out. It was an azure thunder dragon, the very embodiment of condensed lightning. Su Changyu stared at it, unable to look away. The summer thunder sword had reached great perfection. Before it could even dissipate, the autumn thunder dragon followed close behind. Manifesting almost simultaneously, the golden and green dragons flew side by side, breathing out brilliant flashes of golden lightning. The dual dragons roared in unison. Both the summer and autumn thunder swords had reached great perfection at the same time. Such an occurrence was unheard of. Before Su Changyu's eyes, the fire dragon and the green dragon appeared together as Yiping executed his sword forms. At this point his momentum did not wane but instead accelerated. Yi Ping's figure gradually blurred in Su Changyu's vision, leaving behind only afterimages and the glowing trails of green and golden sword paths. Faster and faster he went, until the sword shadows transformed into streams of light like a sun wheel cutting through all of creation. Ultimately, it transformed into a true phantom. The golden sword chi gradually shifted into a deep blue, encircling Yi Ping at the center. The Winter Thunder Sword technique, the most powerful of the 4 Thunder Sword techniques, had also reached great mastery. An azure dragon's head tore through the sky and dove downward. Although this strike was only at the level of great mastery, it felt entirely different from the previous 3. With only its head visible, the azure dragon obscured the entire sky above Su Changyu. His fear deepened, his gaze grew frantic, and cold sweat poured down. Su Changyu felt as though winter had arrived and all life was being entombed in ice. The azure dragon was causing everything to freeze as snow began to fall silently. It wasn't until the 432nd move that Yi Ping finally stopped. He dropped to one knee with his other leg extended sideways, one hand braced on the ground and his sword pointing behind him in a perfect pose. The 7-day learning report performance had officially ended, leaving Su Changyu with a furrowed brow, mouth agape in wordless shock, and a face drenched in sweat. He stood dazed, staring at Yi Ping, who had already sheathed his sword, across from him. Yi Ping's face was swept by blue light, alternating between light and shadow, as if an endless killing intent was hidden within this freezing, snowy night. At this point, the 4 Thunder Sword techniques. Yi Ping had reached great perfection in all 4 techniques of spring, summer, autumn and winter. However, he remained motionless. Maintaining his closing posture, he reflected privately. No, something isn't right. I seem to be relying too much on the sword. A look of frustration appeared on his face as a dark aura began to emanate from him. Yi Ping muttered irritably, "The greatest form is formless, it gives life to all things. Nothingness is existence. Observe the object beyond the object, contemplate the self beyond the self. That's it. I've been limited by the sword." This left Su Changyu completely baffled, but suddenly his eyes widened, filled with a strange brilliance. Yi Ping exclaimed with pleasant surprise, "I think I understand, senior brother, this is what you really wanted to tell me, isn't it?" These words left Su Changyu utterly bewildered, thinking, "What the hell are you talking about?" Without waiting for a response, Yi Ping pressed his fist together in front of him and continued, "Consider this. The sword of the commoner strikes at the neck and pierces the lungs, no different from a cockfight. But the sword of the Son of Heaven is governed by the 5 elements, opened by yin and yang, and takes all things in the world as its edge." As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled his hands apart, and at that exact moment, a brilliant golden light erupted between his hands, extending into a ribbon of radiance. Simultaneously, as Yi Ping unleashed a move, a thunderous boom exploded, the shockwave ruffling Su Changyu's robes and hair. Su Changyu swept his teeth, unable to believe it. He cursed inwardly. Holy crap, did he just gain another insight just by running through the moves? Is this a joke? Am I dreaming? Recalling the scene of the flora being covered in ice and snow, a thought flashed through Su Changyu's mind. If the Winter Thunder Sword just now brought a sense of destruction and ruin, then now, watching the withered wood continuously stretch out, he felt an entirely different aura, a power brimming with vitality, an air of revival. In that split second he felt as if he had traveled across 10,000 years of time. Before his eyes, a massive ancient tree towered upward. Its lush foliage emitted an emerald spiritual aura, filled with endless, inextinguishable life force. Su Changyu marveled inwardly. The energy here was surging like a boundless flowing spring. Su Changyu looked at the azure invisible sword before him, feeling as though this sword was the entire world itself, yet Yi Ping had managed to manifest it through a single moment of enlightenment. It even seemed as though he could cut down 10,000 soldiers with a mere wave of his hand. Simultaneously, as if to confirm Su Changyu's intuition, Yi Ping swung the sword shadow, carving a perfectly straight line through the forest that reached the horizon. Its energy rose like a power grid, making one afraid to approach. Observing his posture, Su Changyu's brow furrowed and his mouth hung open in disbelief. "Wait, hold on." Deep inside, his soul was nearly scared out of his body. With bloodshot eyes that were practically bulging out, he stammered incoherently. "No, could this be sword intent?" Su Changyu stared blankly at the fading golden spiritual power behind Yi Ping while that invisible sword remained held in his hand. However, the sword soon lost its shape, turning into a wisp of air that slipped from his palm. This left Yi Ping feeling utterly dejected. With a long face, he muttered, "How annoying! That feeling disappeared. I can't feel it at all anymore." In an instant, Yi Ping's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. He hugged himself, panicking in a cold sweat. This power is so terrifying, yet it only succeeded for a fleeting moment. "As I thought, my talent is just too poor." These words were like a thunderclap, slapping Su Changyu hard across the face. He broke into a cold sweat, his eyes rolling and the corners of his mouth twitching. Feeling that life had lost its meaning, he stammered, "Talent too poor?" Imagining a figure standing above the masses, back straight at the peak of a high mountain, radiating a dazzling golden light while countless worshipful gazes looked up from below. Su Changyu thought, "I was lucky enough to see the Taishu Sword Sovereign once when I was young. which is why I chose the path of the sword so firmly. Back then, the sword sovereign didn't even use spiritual power. The sheer momentum of his sword strikes triggered phenomena almost exactly like my junior brother's just now. Comparing the two, Su Changyu felt their gazes were equally sharp and chilling. He marveled inwardly, this is absolutely supreme sword intent. He isn't just the top genius of the Jin state, he might even be the top genius of all 10 states. With this level of comprehension for sword techniques, even without spiritual power, he could reach the pinnacle of the sword world in the future with the help of artifacts and green talismans. Suddenly, Yi Ping spoke up, hoping to pass the assessment. Senior brother, I know the sword move I just realized is mediocre, but I will work twice as hard. I hope you won't be disappointed. To Su Changyu's ears, this apologetic tone felt like being executed by 1,000 cuts. His face turned deathly pale as he thought, who am I? Where am I? He lamented. In this lifetime, I probably can't even compare to your toe. But I absolutely cannot lose face. Such a peerless genius must not be allowed to leave. He had to remain composed and maintain his status. Then the best actor Su Changyu turned around, leaving a cool silhouette as he spoke. It is indeed quite mediocre, just average. However, his face was twisted like he had eaten a bitter gourd as he fought back tears. If you're mediocre, then what the hell am I? Yi Ping looked sorrowful, poking his index fingers together, thinking, as I thought. Suddenly, something caught Su Changyu's attention. He turned to look. Seeing a notebook lying on a rock nearby, Su Changyu asked, "What is this?" Yi Ping cast aside his sorrow and looked over. He walked over, picked up the notebook and said, "Reporting to senior brother, these are just some records of my insights during cultivation. They aren't worth mentioning." But Su Changyu leaned in with great interest, asking curiously, "Insight records, may I have a look?" Hearing this, Yi Ping stammered guiltily, I'm too embarrassed." Su Changyu picked up the notebook and flipped through the pages, his brow furrowed deeper with every turn, his mind feeling as if struck by lightning. Every page was recorded in incredible detail. The handwriting was dense and even radiated a golden spiritual aura. Su Changyu read, "In the first 50 forms of spring thunder, senior brother wanted to teach me the principle that white sand will eventually turn into black sand during nirvana." The elegant calligraphy seemed to dance in the air, carrying every earnest annotation Yi Ping had made during the first 100 forms of spring thunder. "Senior brother wants to tell me the principle that all things are interconnected, and that there is no above or below. In the first 50 forms of summer thunder, great straightness seems crooked, great skill seems clumsy, and great eloquence seems like a stutter." Reading the characters in the notes, Su Changyu felt a shock as if he were looking at the stars for the first time. He recognized every single word in the records, but when they were strung together, they were as mysterious and profound as a vast galaxy. Su Changyu stood opposite Yi Ming, studying every character in a daze, even developing the illusion that he was being preached to. As the gems of wisdom continued to appear, Su Changyu's brow was locked in a deep frown. He stared at every word, and though he couldn't understand them, he felt an overwhelming sense of awe. Then, with a blank expression and drenched in cold sweat, he asked, questioning his very existence, "I said all these things." Thinking Su Changyu was about to get angry, Yi Ming quickly defended himself. "I wouldn't dare, it's just my own arrogance, recording only a mere tip of the iceberg. It surely isn't even a 10,000th as profound as what senior brother truly intended to teach, right?" This time, Su Changyu was completely petrified. His jaw nearly hitting his chest, he muttered in terror, "Why can't I understand a single word? How on earth did you realize all this, you blockhead? Did you realize the great Tao out of thin air? What kind of monster are you?" Su Changyu then recalled how he had resolved to practice the sword years ago. Even gritting his teeth through bitter training, he lamented, "I, Su Changyu, have meditated and practiced bitterly for over a decade and have only just reached the entry level of spring thunder, yet this newbie junior brother. In just 7 days he practiced the entire set of 4 thunder sword techniques directly to great perfection." Subconsciously he had already broken down, kneeling on the ground with tears flowing like a river, feeling desolate and miserable. The kid had even touched upon that breathtaking infinite sword intent. What even is this life? "I'm sorry." On the surface, however, Su Changyu maintained a cold facade. He turned to leave, leaving the dazed Yi Ping behind, and instructed, "Fine, continue your meditation. I'll be back in a few days." Seeing this, Yi Ping felt incredibly lost, standing frozen like a block of wood while his mind raced. Looking at senior brother's expression, things seem a bit bad. Could it be that he thinks my talent is too poor and plans to kick me out? Terrified by his own thoughts, Yi Ping shed 2 lines of tears and fell into a state of panic, scratching his head and screaming, "Please don't. I finally found a place willing to take me in." He remembered the scene at the spirit root testing platform, where everyone had looked at him with contempt, and his heart filled with sorrow. For half a year he had participated in over 50 immortal ascension assemblies, but no sect, large or small, was willing to take him. They even mocked him. "Immortal spirit root, I suggest you stop dreaming about cultivation. It's a complete waste of time. Give up early so you don't waste any more effort." Yi Ping rolled his eyes like an underdog at the mercy of others, lamenting, "Without a sect to take me in, I can't exactly realize the great Tao just by looking at the stars, can I?" Then his willpower ignited, and his determination burned like fire. He panted heavily like a bull preparing to charge, stating firmly, "No matter what, I must seize this opportunity. I can't let go. Besides, everyone in this sect is a peerless master. Go for it, Yiping, you can do this." Time slipped away. Elsewhere in the Qingyun Dao sect, at the sect leader's residence, a small cottage built on the mountain peak and surrounded by mist. White cranes soared through the sky. Taoist Taihua sat by the window, holding a teacup and looking out, remarking happily, "The weather has been quite nice lately." Sipping tea and admiring the flowers, it was truly pleasant. Suddenly a scream like a slaughtered pig rang out. "Master, master, it's bad." The shock made him jump, his face turning pale as his hair stood on end and cold sweat poured down. Su Changyu stood at the door, out of breath, hands on his knees, urgently reporting, "Master, something big happened, a huge thing." Hearing this, Taoist Taihua regained his composure and asked, "Changyu, what's with the panic? This doesn't look like you." His face was as red as a beet and his expression was full of terror as he spoke. "Master, your dream might have actually come true. Our Qingyun Dao sect has finally," when Su Changyu added, "produced a dragon." Taoist Taihua was so shocked his eyes rolled back, his eyes were wide, unable to believe his ears. Taihua Taoist lunged from his chair as if his backside were on fire. "A breakthrough? Changyu, what on earth do you mean by that?" he asked urgently. Su Changyu's expression was grim, his eyes sharp as he recounted what he had just witnessed. The new junior brother started from scratch, and in just 7 days he has brought the entire Four Thunder Sword technique to the stage of great perfection. Upon hearing this, Taihua Taoist was utterly bewildered. After the initial shock wore off, he stood there dazed, lamenting, "Good heavens, this is a true genius." But a second later, his face flushed crimson, his eyes widened, and he roared at his eldest disciple. "Changyu, this is no matter to joke about. If you're lying, you'll have to swallow needles." Seeing this, Su Changyu dodged the flying spittle, and asserted firmly that the celestial phenomenon in the sky earlier was precisely because the Fourth Thunder Sword technique had reached mastery. Had his master not seen it? At that moment, Taihua Taoist froze, his soul seemingly departing his body. He spoke blankly like a machine. "I thought some big shot was leveling up nearby." At the time he had been standing leisurely, admiring the dragon roar phenomenon in the sky. Now he was stammering, unable to believe it was little Yi Ping. After a moment, Taihua Taoist's attitude and expression performed a total 180-degree reversal. His eyes welled with tears, yet they sparkled with pure bliss as he shouted, "A genius, we've found a genius. Our Qingyun Taoist sect finally has a genius." But in the blink of an eye, Taihua Taoist froze again, his eyes rolling back as he gasped for air. Terrified, Su Changyu grabbed him by the collar and shook him. "Hey master, calm down, don't get so excited that you collapse, master." It took a while before Taihua Taoist's drifting consciousness was pulled back from the clouds. He grabbed a scalding teapot he had barely sipped from and poured the whole thing over his head, muttering to himself that he needed to stay calm or he'd lose control. "The fortune teller said I'd face a great tribulation at 500 years old." Watching Taihua Taoist use a towel to wipe his face and head to clear his mind, Su Changyu spoke up, "But master, if we keep him in our sect, will we be hindering his future?" However, the master comforted him. "Changyu, you worry too much. Yi Bing attended over 50 immortal ascension assemblies, and not a single soul was willing to take him. That we took an interest in him is his good fortune. It's a win-win for both him and our sect." Despite the water still dripping down his face, making him look utterly disheveled, Taihua Taoist's gaze was firmer than ever. He continued, "Furthermore, cultivators value affinity. Others didn't choose him, yet we did. That speaks of destiny. Have you ever considered whether he would truly get whatever he wanted in another sect? Setting aside the jealousy of fellow disciples, there is the cutthroat intrigue between sects. Assassinating geniuses to stunt a rival's growth is a common occurrence. Changyu, stop being such a bleeding heart." Within moments, Taihua Taoist's face was the very picture of righteousness. The sect master of Qingyun Taoist sect stood there, radiating an aura of integrity. He said, "Your master is not a greedy man. Once the sect ascends to the 3rd or 2nd rank, I will tell him the truth. At that time, whether he stays or leaves will be his own choice." How was that for a plan? Swayed by Taihua Taoist's light of righteousness, Su Changyu's mind finally came around. He answered as if hypnotized, "I understand, master. I shall follow your instructions." He then heard the master declare, "Let it be so. Remember, you must never let the secret slip." Time flew by, and soon it was the next afternoon at the Qingyun Taoist sect. Taihua Taoist sat on a stone stool in the courtyard, resting with his eyes closed. He took a sip of tea, soaking in the warm sunlight. Suddenly, Su Changyu came charging out of nowhere, wailing at the gate like a stuck pig. "Master, master, this is bad." Startled, Taihua Taoist jerked so hard he spat out a mouthful of tea. Su Changyu was drenched in sweat, his face pale, swaying as if he couldn't stand straight. He stammered, Something big has happened again." Taihua Taoist sat there like a wooden statue, his body stiff and his eyes wide, wearing an expression that asked, "Who am I and where am I?" Then panic seized him. He grabbed a bundle, ready to flee for his life. As he ran, he called out, "I'm going into hiding. I'm leaving the sect in your hands, Changyu." But Su Changyu managed to raise his hand and shout an explanation just in time. "Master, it's not a debt collector, it's something else." Hearing this, Taihua Daoist stopped in his tracks. With a dark, displeased look he turned back to demand what else it could be. Then he pivoted and delivered a sharp kick to Su Changyu's hip, scolding, "Then what are you panicking for? You nearly scared the soul right out of me." After a moment, the courtyard where Taihua Daoist lived regained its tranquility. He resumed his leisurely pose. Holding his teacup, he asked with a sidelong glance, "Out with it. What big thing happened? Are we being evicted?" Seeing Su Changyu hold out a piece of paper, the master said, "You'd better see for yourself." Taihua Daoist held the notice high, squinting as he read. As of today, the Qingzhou Sect Affairs Office will conduct investigations into minor sects to prevent reckless disciple selection and fraudulent practices. All sects are required to submit 10 low-grade spirit stones within 2 months to prove their legitimacy. After reading it, the leisure vanished from Taihua Daoist's face, replaced by a cold sweat. His face went as black as a charcoal grill. His lip twitched as he blurted out, "What?" He immediately flipped the table, his fury erupting like a wildfire. "This is outrageous, extorting spirit stones for no reason and bullying the weak. I'm going to the capital to file a complaint." To Su Changyu, however, this was all just an act. He stared blankly, speechless. Su Changyu explained the economics. In the cultivation world, 1 copper coin buys a flatbread. 10,000 coppers equal 100 taels of silver or 1 tael of gold. He then thought of that blue spirit stone everyone dreamed of. He continued, saying it took 1,000 taels of gold to equal just 1 spirit stone. Taihua Daoist froze once more, the focus leaving his aging eyes as he let out a pathetic wail. The entire Qingyun sect would have to go without food or drink for a full year just to save up those 10 spirit stones. Watching his master sit there scratching his head and whimpering, Su Changyu calmed down slightly and began to check the accounts. "Master, don't panic yet. How many spirit stones does the sect have in total right now?" This question made Taihua Daoist even more sheepish. He hemmed and hawed. "Oh well," then, face flushed with shame, he held up 7 fingers and spoke in a voice as quiet as a mosquito. Is there about that much left?" Seeing this, Su Changyu grinned and replied, 7 spirit stones? That's enough then." But Taihua Daoist guiltily corrected him. "How could that be possible?" Su Changyu's expression froze. 70 taels of gold?" he asked incredulously. "That's difficult, but if we all chip in suddenly." Taihua Daoist denied it was 70. By now Su Changyu's face had darkened considerably. He frowned and muttered, "Sect Master, please don't tell me it's only 70 taels of silver." Even then Taihua Daoist turned his face away. Unable to look him in the eye, the master confessed the truth. It was 70 copper coins. This revelation was like a bolt from the blue, striking Su Changyu right in the skull. His pupils contracted as he roared in terror. 70 copper coins? Fuming so hard his hair stood on end, Su Changyu shouted, "How is that possible? No matter how down on our luck we are still a legitimate sect." Taihua Daoist confirmed with a miserable face that this was indeed the reality. He then slumped into his chair, despondently recounting the tragic tale of how they were cleaned out. It went like this. The sect originally had some savings, but he felt that keeping silver on hand was a waste. He had happened to hear about a new thing called an Immortal Cultivation Fund. Hearing this wonderful name for the first time, Su Changyu was stunned, beginning to question his very existence. An Immortal Cultivation Fund? He echoed in disbelief. Taihua Daoist recalled the scene of people frantically vying to invest their money. He explained that they said if you deposited money you'd get dividends every month, and large ones at that. He had fought hard just to snag an investment slot that ordinary people couldn't even get. It didn't take long for the investors' dreams to shatter like a thunderclap. Everyone was wailing and screaming, "Give me my money back, give it back." "That was my life savings," Taihua Daoist lamented. "Who would have thought that while I was eyeing his interest he was eyeing my principal?" Within days he took the money and vanished. Like a greedy child who had been tricked out of his candy, Taihua Daoist wept, reaching out for comfort. "Changyu, your master was swindled. Quick, give me a hug and comfort me." Su Changyu simply wore a look of utter speechlessness, his heart full of curses. 70 coppers compared to 100 taels of gold. They were finished. They might as well just disband. Su Changyu was certain that this time the Qingyun Taoist sect was truly doomed. However, Taihua Daoist pumped his fist, forcing a look of hypocritical determination. "Regardless, your master will take responsibility. If all else fails, I'll have to take the lesser path and make a trip to the Jinglin Mountains. We finally have a genius. I absolutely cannot let the sect collapse." But Su Changyu reminded him with a dark face, "Stop dreaming." Suddenly, on the mountain peak near them, a majestic bolt of lightning soared into the sky, startling them both into looking. Seeing the terrifying phenomenon in the sky, Taihua Daoist began to stammer in fear. "Ah!" Su Changyu's brow furrowed, his gaze solemn. After observing closely, he shouted, "That's the direction of Junior Brother's quarters. What happened?" Looking at the heavenly thunder roaring from the opposite peak, Su Changyu cried out in alarm, "What was that in the sky just now? Could it be that Junior Brother has had another breakthrough?" Beside him, Taihua Daoist's face was grim. He waved his hand dismissively in disbelief. "Impossible. Not even a genius could trigger something like that. It must have just been a coincidental clap of thunder. Don't overthink it." He then turned and went into the house. Picking up the bundle from the table, he said, Changyu, I must go down the mountain to see if I can borrow some spirit stones. Since a dragon has appeared, I will never let this sect disband no matter the cost. I'm leaving things here to you. Most importantly, take good care of your junior brother. Teach him well, and for heaven's sake don't teach him any nonsense. Su Changyu immediately bowed with his hands clasped, accepting the order. Yes, master, you can rest easy. Time passed, and 7 days later, by the edge of a cliff, Yi Bum was still diligently practicing his swordplay. He hadn't stopped for a single moment. He leaped into the air and swung his sword forward, the sword chi transforming into energy like a giant bird spreading its wings. Drenched in sweat, Yi Pim gritted his teeth and persevered, his sword strikes jagged and incredibly sharp. As Su Changyu approached, he found Yi Pim so immersed in his practice that he hadn't noticed his arrival at all. The sword shadows he cast flickered with golden light. The more Su Changyu watched, the more alarmed he became. His eyes nearly rolled back in shock. It's only been 7 days, and he's already learned so many new sword techniques. At this rate, won't he reach the pinnacle of every style in just a few days? The phenomenon from before was indeed caused by his breakthrough. If I didn't have to, I really wouldn't want to see him. The pressure is just too much. Suddenly, Yi Ping sensed Su Changyu's presence. He stopped his movements, turned to look, and then bowed politely and respectfully. Eldest senior brother, you're here? Seeing this, Su Changyu gestured for him to rise. At ease, how is the practice coming along? Yi Ping gripped his sword hilt, a tip pointing at the ground. His eyes looked somewhat dejected, and he couldn't bring himself to look Su Changyu in the eye. These 1,460 sword forms. I have gained a thorough understanding of them all. Although the process was a bit slow and bumpy, I suppose I've succeeded. Hearing this, Su Changyu wept inwardly, his world spinning. You've understood them all. Even though I had high hopes for you, I still underestimated you. I'm so jealous. On the surface, however, he struggled to remain calm. Adopting a lofty demeanor, he pointed to the sky and instructed, Little Yi Ping, listen well. Even if your sword forms have reached the pinnacle, that is merely the beginning. Beyond that lie sword chi and sword intent. Sword forms are tedious, but the so-called sword momentum means one sword replaces 10,000, merging all forms into a single strike. Su Changyu bluffed and bragged with a forehead full of sweat, acting as if he were the god of swords himself. At the very least, until you condense your sword momentum, you cannot be called a sword cultivator. Do you understand? Yi Ping felt a bit discouraged upon hearing this. He tilted his head and thought gloomily, Oh, I don't even count as a sword cultivator yet. Meanwhile, Su Changyu groaned inwardly. That bit of nonsense should be enough. Otherwise, with this kid's talent, he'd probably figure it all out in another 3 days. Suddenly, Yi Ping's face flushed slightly. With wide eyes, he asked curiously and shyly, Ah, right, what realm have you reached now, senior brother? Under the sunlight, Su Changyu tilted his chin up, gazing into the distance with a misty look in his eyes. Me, he thought. He then replied, I have little talent. He puffed out his chest, struck a pose with a hand to his forehead, and said with a self-satisfied squint, I have only just stepped into the first stage of the legendary supreme sword path, the infinite sword intent. Inwardly, Su Changyu was delighted. Haha, this bragging feels absolutely amazing. At the same time, Yi Ping's eyes lit up. Looking at his idol, he opened his mouth and marveled excitedly to himself. Wow, sword intent, infinite sword intent. Just the name sounds incredibly powerful as expected of eldest senior brother. He really is a hidden master. I'm following him for life. But Su Changyu wasn't done. He continued to act profound, switching into full scammer mode. Only after mastering sword momentum can one enter the Supreme Realm. The Supreme Realm is divided into 3 stages, the first being infinite sword intent. Don't be fooled by it being only the first stage. Even just stepping into this realm is enough to dominate the 10 kingdoms. Hearing this, Yi Ping couldn't help but gasp. That is incredible. Suddenly, Yi Ping seemed to realize something. Cold sweat poured down as he clutched his chest in shock. Wait a minute, he thought. Doesn't that mean eldest senior brother is currently the #1 in the 10 kingdoms? I knew he was an expert, but I never imagined he was on such a level. His jaw dropped in amazement. In his heart, he already revered Su Changyu as a god. If he studied under him, could he reach the level of being #2 in the 10 kingdoms? A carp leaping over the dragon gate? Yi Ping never expected he'd see this day. It was as if the smoke of good fortune was rising from his ancestral graves. He then cupped his hands and shouted with excitement, I will surely do my best to catch up to you, senior brother. I must comprehend the infinite sword intent in this lifetime. If I ever become famous throughout the world, I will never forget your kindness. Hearing this, Su Changyu turned his face away, wanting to cry but finding no tears. He felt incredibly bitter, grumbling to himself, Say no more, say no more. My heart is already completely pickled with envy. Meanwhile, Yi Ping looked up at the sky, marveling at his good fortune and muttering to himself that it felt like a dream. Just a few days ago, he was a commoner struggling to make ends meet. He never expected to have mastered the Sect's sword techniques. It was truly unbelievable. He stood at the mountain peak, gazing at the golden sunset on the horizon. Moved by the scene, he recited a poem. The evening glow reflects on the Qingyun Pavilion, while the distant Heng peaks are dyed in crimson shadows. I wish to cultivate the way of the sword in Qingzhou, dining at dawn and dusk upon proud Heaven Peak. Beside him, Su Changyu was dumbstruck. Looking at the sunny youth before him, he asked, "The sect master mentioned that you were a scholar before coming up the mountain?" Yi Ping replied, "In a sense, though I never achieved any official titles, I have a keen interest in literature and painting." Hearing this, Su Changyu plotted internally and then suggested cheerfully, "Then why don't you paint a portrait for me? Once little Yi Ping truly made a name for himself in the future, wouldn't this painting be the perfect bragging material?" He visualized himself boasting with his chest out. "See this, a painting made specifically for me by the #1 sword cultivator in the Great Jin dynasty. Hee, eat your hearts out." He felt he was being incredibly clever. However, Yi Ping hesitated, pointing at his own face as if questioning his life choices. "Painting? Well, all right if it turns out poorly. Please do not laugh at me, senior brother." In his previous life, Yi Ping had joined a painting club specifically to pursue the goddess of his heart. Back then, full of youthful vigor, he had buried himself in practice for 3 years until he finally mastered the craft. But when he took his artwork to present it to his goddess, he was petrified halfway there. He saw his curvaceous goddess running off with a rich heir wearing a gold chain as thick as a dog's leash. After a profound existential crisis, realizing that even painting couldn't save a lonely dog, Yi Ping had collapsed on the ground weeping uncontrollably. Back to the present, a moment later, Yi Ping produced an easel from somewhere and stood before his eldest senior brother ready to begin. The best actor, Su Changyu, knew exactly which angle was his most flattering, and had already struck a perfect profile pose. He leisurely observed his junior brother, who was focused and gripping his brush under the setting sun, thinking to himself, "This kid is actually quite handsome when he's serious. He even captures a bit of my own divine spirit." After a while, a sweat-drenched Yi Ping handed over a scroll. Looking up shyly, he said, "Senior brother, it's finished. It's not very good, please forgive me." Su Changyu took the scroll and comforted him. "Don't worry, let me have a look first." However, the moment he looked down at the painting, his eyes widened in horror, his entire body freezing in place as he let out a scream at the painting. In the frame, Su Changyu stood on the grass, sword in hand, gazing at the warm sun. Every posture and detail in the painting was so lifelike that to Su Changyu's eyes, it seemed to leap off the paper like a scene from a movie. The more he looked, the more astonished he became, eventually finding himself at a loss for words. No language could express his current state of mind. Looking at the sky through Yi Ping's brushstrokes, the setting sun dyed the horizon crimson. The Qingyun mountain range resembled the Penglai immortal realm, and the flora was so realistic it was hard to distinguish from the truth. The ears of rice seemed to sway with the wind, leaving Su Changyu deeply moved. The handling of certain details in particular made it appear even more authentic. He looked at the version of himself in the painting, eyes slightly closed, expression indifferent, and offered a silent critique. But what drew the eye most was that despite being only a side profile, it captured the sharp, cold, and powerful aura of a sword immortal. Su Changyu stared blankly at the radiant, golden-hued work, almost feeling as though the figure within could step out at any moment. His imagination ran wild, picturing his painted self raising a fist and delivering a heavy blow to the viewer's chest. After a long silence, Su Changyu finally spoke to praise Yi Ping, saying the painting was quite good and indeed impeccable. If he had to nitpick one flaw, it was that it failed to fully capture his elder brother's handsomeness. He added that this wasn't a lack of skill, but simply because he was far too handsome to be captured. Hearing this rare praise from Su Changyu, Yi Ping was overjoyed. He laced his fingers together, his face flushing with delight as he replied, "Thank you for the compliment, senior brother. I have always wanted to repay you for your guidance. This painting is just a small token of my gratitude." Suddenly, Su Changyu noticed something unusual on the painting and let out a startled cry. Indeed, at the end of the painting was a red seal that boldly read 4 characters. Layman Qinglian. He looked over with a face full of confusion, thinking, "Layman Qinglian, this kid certainly knows how to show off, even coming up with a formal moniker for himself already." Just then, the Taihua Taoist's voice transmission shook the air like a thunderclap. "Changyu, I have thought of a way to save the sect. Come back quickly. Come back." Receiving the message, Su Changyu glanced toward his master's courtyard, wondering, "Master found a solution? For that much silver?" He rolled up the scroll and hurriedly said to Yi Ping before leaving, "I'm taking this painting." "Thank you," Yi Ping replied politely. Such a small matter wasn't worth mentioning. Meanwhile, Su Changyu was still fretting over the sect's affairs. Things had come to this. What kind of turning point could there possibly be? At that same moment, in a location far from the Qingyun Dao sect at the Sun Sword sect, one of the 3 major sects of Qingzhou, a fire dragon roared toward the heavens, piercing through the spiritual clouds and diving down with a piercing gaze. At the summit of the Sword Enlightenment Cliff, the lightning energy dropped by the fire dragon severed the mountainside, causing the cultivators at the foot of the mountain to look up in shock. One disciple marveled, wide-eyed. As expected of the 4 Seasons ancestor, a casual sword strike is truly terrifying. A woman beside him shot him a mocking glance and scoffed, "Cut the chatter, why else would everyone be sitting here? Do the sword marks of ordinary swordsmen deserve to be meditated upon by geniuses like us? Just as she finished speaking, a bolt of heavenly lightning suddenly fell, striking right next to the startled disciple. As rubble flew, a young man looked up and shouted, "I've realized it. I finally understand. This young master has finally attained enlightenment." Standing behind the two who had just been talking, he roared toward the sky, boasting that the great perfection stage was nothing more than this. The man who had been praising the elder was stunned and cried out, "Heavens, senior brother Shu Hang actually did it, and it's the great perfection of the spring thunder sword, so strong." The woman's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn as she began to flatter him profusely. The Four Seasons Taoist had once said, "Even for a genius, reaching great perfection takes at least 3 years, yet senior brother Shu Hang only took 1. Truly worthy of being one of the top 10 sword geniuses of Qingzhou. Such talent is beyond our reach." Not far away, several elders looked toward Shu Hang and the other cultivators still sitting in meditation. A young man smiled and cupped his hands in flattery. "To recruit such a genius, senior brother Mingjin truly has a keen eye for talent. Congratulations this time at the Qingzhou Sword Assembly." Shu Hang might just take first place. Mingjin was overjoyed upon hearing this and grinned, saying, "Ha, it's nothing really, it's just great perfection, it doesn't count for much." Seeing this, the other man continued his flattery. "Senior brother Mingjin is too humble." Suddenly, a cold, disdainful snort came from the side. A man with hair as messy as a horse's mane glanced at Mingjin and mocked, "Qingzhou is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. It's a bit too early to talk about first place." Mingjin didn't take offense, instead closing his eyes and calmly countering, "True, Elder Chen is quite right, how could it be Hunger's turn? Just like his own disciples, though they've only just scratched the surface after a year, they must be so confident that they purposely let Hunger go ahead of them. That's clearly why they haven't broken through yet." Stunned where it hurt, Elder Chen's anger flared. He glared back with a fierce look and shouted, "You brat, you dare mock me?" Seeing the atmosphere grow tense, the young man nearby laughed to smooth things over. All right, brothers, don't be angry. We're all on the same side. Saying he'll be first is indeed a bit of an exaggeration. But the sect master has issued an order this time. We must make the top 10 no matter what." This news came like a bolt from the blue. Elder Chen and Mingjin both turned their heads in confusion and asked, "Oh, why?" The youth pointed toward the sky and said with a solemn expression, "You two may not know since you just came out of seclusion, but those who make the top 10 this time will receive a token for the Taishuan Sword Tower." This reward indeed piqued the interest of both Elder Chen and Mingjin, their eyes widening. Imagining that 8-story pagoda burning under the golden light, the man continued, "I presume I don't need to explain what it means to enter the Taishuan Sword Tower and pass its trials?" Upon hearing this, Mingjin was filled with fighting spirit. He clenched his fist and laughed wildly. "Haha, heaven is on my side. This time my disciple and I will surely claim a spot in the top 10. Please rest assured, Sect Master." Elder Chen couldn't help but throw cold water on him again. "HMPH, don't get overconfident. If a disciple from some nameless small sect beats you to it, you'll lose a lot of face." However, Mingjin and the younger junior brother clutched their stomachs and laughed uncontrollably. "Fine, if a disciple from outside the 3 major sects actually manages to beat Hunger, I'll not only empty your chamber pot for a year, I'll do it while standing on my head." Meanwhile, at the Qingyun Dao sect master's residence, the afterglow of the setting sun was exceptionally warm. Taihua Taoist had laid out a pile of ancient-looking trinkets on the table for Su Changyu to see. Witnessing this, Su Changyu's face darkened and he asked suspiciously, This is the money-making method you mentioned?" A pile of scrap. Various tea sets, wine gourds, tokens, and other unknown objects were piled before the eyes of the eldest disciple of the Qingyun Dao sect. Looking at these items, Su Changyu was instantly petrified. Feeling as if his body were about to crack, he cried out in a daze, "This scrap is your solution? How much money can you get for this pile of junk?" Taihua Taoist squinted and puckered his lips, refusing to admit it. "This is called pawning. These are the treasures from the bottom of our sect's coffers. Tell me what part of this is junk. Your master truly couldn't think of any other way. Let's just treat a dead horse as if it were alive." Sensing his master wanted to drag him down with him, Su Changyu turned to flee, shouting in shame, "I'm not going. I don't want to lose face. Pawning this stuff is too humiliating." But Taihua Taoist grabbed him by the shoulder and pleaded, "Good disciple, help your master just this once, the very last time." Suddenly, he saw the scroll in Su Changyu's hand and asked in confusion, What's this?" Hearing it was a gift from the junior brother, Su Changyu tried to stop him, but before he could finish, Taihua Taoist had already snatched the scroll and run off. "The sect is about to disappear and you still have the heart for art. Take it to be pawned along with the rest." "It's not worth anything, you old geezer. Give it back." Su Changyu shouted angrily as he gave chase. Time passed and the farce came to an end. Early the next morning at the town's pawn shop, the second manager was all smiles, opening his arms in greeting. "Welcome to our humble shop. Please come in, exalted immortals." Looking at Taihua Taoist and Su Changyu, he rubbed his hands flatteringly and asked, "Are you two buying or selling?" He heard the sect master of Qingyun Dao sect reply, "Selling. It's all good stuff." Immediately, before even looking at the contents of the bag, the second manager beamed like a flower and flattered them. Of course one can tell at a glance that you two are no ordinary men. Come, let me feast my eyes. Even without looking, I can guarantee these are top-grade items. But when he opened the bag and saw it was full of tattered garbage-like junk, the second manager felt his vision go dark, his face turned ashen, and he cried out, questioning his very existence. Taihua Taoist had even brought out several pictures of sexy beauties to pawn. The second manager screamed, "What kind of junk is this? Why is there even smut like this?" Seeing the drawings, he turned beet red and backed away as if he had seen a hidden projectile. Suddenly, the second manager cried out in confusion, "Heavens, could this be Ling Yuanyuan's limited edition photo album?" Taihua Taoist was startled and rushed forward to explain, "Wait, that's the wrong one, that's not for sale." He blushed awkwardly as he stuffed the album into his sleeve, his eyes darting around. "Anything else is fine, but this treasure is not for sale even if the sect collapses." Seeing this, Su Changyu took the opportunity to demand, "Master, lend that to me later." This made Taihua Taoist even more embarrassed, and he hurriedly agreed, "Fine, fine, fine." Afterward, Taihua Taoist shamelessly began to haggle with the manager. "For everything combined, I'll give you a discount, only 10 gold taels, what do you think?" The second manager's face turned blue upon hearing this, and he roared dizzily, "10 gold taels for this pile of trash? Have you gone mad from poverty?" Taihua Taoist flew into a rage at this, grabbing a piece of tattered cloth and shouting, "What trash? Do you even know quality? Look closely at the material of this cushion. This is made of golden silkworm silk. Selling it to you is my loss." But the second manager coldly waved him away. "Then please grant that great bargain to another shop." Taihua Taoist changed his expression faster than turning a page, smiling as he offered a price. "Let's be friends. How about you take it all for 8 taels and 2 cents? The second manager still refused. Taihua Taoist's face turned bright red as he held out his hand and shouted, 5 taels, it can't be any less, and I'm really going elsewhere." Su Changyu sighed beside him. He used the scroll to cover his face and whispered, "This is too humiliating, let's just go, master." But the item in his hand caught the second manager's eye. The manager immediately stepped forward and pointed to the scroll, signaling, "Could I take a look at this painting?" Su Changyu handed it over, unsure what to do. The painting, HMPH of course. The second manager took it carefully and remarked, "Siang Zan paper, you two are too much, you clearly aren't short on money, so why are you making fun of our shop?" This caught Taihua Taoist's attention and his heart skipped a beat. "Is this painting paper very expensive?" Opening the scroll and observing the material, the second manager confirmed, "Indeed, it is Siang Zan paper. Just this sheet of paper alone is worth over 10 gold taels." He then noticed the signature at the bottom and cried out, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. The second manager thought in a daze while gesturing for his assistant Xiao Luo to come over, whispering in his ear, "Xiao Luo, come here quickly. I have something to tell you." Their mysterious behavior left Taihua Taoist completely bewildered. He was utterly confused. He stared at the manager and his disciple whispering in the corner, looking extremely nervous. "Over there?" Xiao Luo asked in shock. "Second manager, are you sure?" To which he replied in a trembling voice, "There's no mistake, absolutely no mistake." Soon, the second manager returned to Taihua Taoist with a complete change in attitude. He squinted and suggested, "I am terribly sorry, but we need to ask the head manager to come and take a look. Could you two wait for a moment?" Taihua Taoist and Su Changyu were stunned by this attitude and replied mechanically, Sure." An hour later, the second manager returned, happily holding the scroll as he discussed. The head manager said that anyone with the eye to purchase such a piece is certainly no novice. "Please stop teasing us, let's speak plainly. Give us an honest price." Hearing this, Su Changyu denied it in confusion. "What collection? That was just the junior disciple." Before he could finish, his mouth was covered by Taihua Taoist, who scolded him, "Shut up." Then Taihua Taoist held up 5 fingers and said calmly to the manager, "Fine, since that's the case, we won't play with you anymore. We want this much. If you agree, then it's a deal. If not, we're leaving immediately." Taihua Taoist was secretly delighted, calculating to himself, based on their performance just now, they definitely misunderstood something. Now is the time to ask for a steep price. It might even be possible to fleece him for 50 silver taels. Lucky I reacted quickly. The second manager rubbed his temples, his brow furrowed as if in great difficulty, letting out a low hum of contemplation. Beside them, Su Changyu snapped back to his senses and pulled Taihua Taoist aside to whisper, "Master, you're being too greedy. Who would spend 50 taels on this painting?" Just as he was certain the man would refuse, Taihua Taoist calmly claimed this was called gamesmanship. Suddenly, the second manager sighed and said, as if having finally made up his mind, "All right, 5,000 taels it is, deal." Hearing this, Taihua Taoist thought his tactic had succeeded. In a fit of ecstasy, he boasted to Su Changyu, "See that? This is gamesmanship. You've got a lot to learn, kid." But he immediately realized something was off. Struck as if by lightning, he asked in a daze, "Wait, how much did you just say?" The second manager squinted uneasily, held up 5 fingers and confirmed in confusion, 5,000 taels. "Wasn't that the price you suggested?" Taihua Taoist and Su Changyu's expressions darkened. They felt almost insulted. "Are you making fun of us?" they demanded. This terrified the second manager, who hurriedly explained, "Why would you say that, exalted immortals? My shop is open for business. I wouldn't dare crack such a joke." Su Changyu was already frozen in shock, tears nearly welling up in his eyes from pure disbelief. A painting the junior brother had casually tossed together was worth 5,000 taels. What on earth was going on? He glanced at his silent, grim-faced master and urgently urged him via voice transmission. "Sect master, what are you waiting for? Agree quickly, hurry up. What if he changes his mind? Take the money and run. The sect is saved." To his surprise, Taihua Taoist's gaze sharpened. He squinted and said, "I'm terribly sorry, but I think you may have misunderstood. My meaning was 50,000 taels." The moment the words were spoken, Su Changyu was utterly speechless. He rolled his eyes and screamed internally, "What, old man, have you gone insane?" That's the end of this episode. Please follow the channel and stay tuned for the next one. Faced with the price Taoist Taihua quoted, the shop's second manager tilted his head, doubting his own ears. He asked again, "How much did you say?" 50,000 taels. Seeing the manager's hesitation, Taihua wagged his finger and emphasized, "That's right. Not a penny less." Meanwhile, Su Changyu's mind was miles away. His expression was grim as he thought, "Master, can you please be reliable just once? What kind of painting could possibly be worth 50,000 taels?" Suddenly, the manager narrowed his eyes and let out a hearty laugh. 50,000 taels? A fine 50,000 taels indeed. The old manager's judgment was spot on. These two were certainly no amateurs. Looks like I won't be getting a massive bargain this time." Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of Taoist Taihua and Su Changyu, he continued, "In that case, let's get straight to the point. Although 50,000 taels is an astronomical price for the works of layman Qinglian, it is indeed not impossible." As soon as these words were spoken, both Taihua and Su Changyu wore expressions of "Who am I? Where am I?" They were secretly terrified. 50,000 taels is actually not impossible. It took a moment for Taoist Taihua to process the manager's words, and his jaw dropped. Breaking into a cold sweat, he thought in disbelief, "No way, right? I only quoted that number to try and scam a high price on a whim. What kind of painting is worth 50,000 taels? Something fishy is going on here." He was completely petrified, eyes rolling back in confusion. He tried to force a smile to calm himself down. "Steady, steady. At a time like this I must stay calm and fish for more information by playing along." In an instant, Taoist Taihua folded his arms, narrowed his eyes, and lifted his chin, regaining his usual composure as he began to bluff. "That's right, you should have said so sooner. To tell you the truth, we've already checked the prices at other shops. Your shop isn't the only one that knows the name of layman Qinglian." Upon hearing this, the manager beamed and replied with a hint of embarrassment, "Quite right. Layman Qinglian's name is indeed no secret in our industry. Although he has only risen to prominence recently, he is already hailed as the first talent in the Jin Kingdom." He imagined a refined young man holding a brush, composing literature with an ethereal, transcendent grace. Not only is his calligraphy exquisite and at the absolute peak of the craft, but his painting skills are also unparalleled. The manager's imagination began to run wild as he described the mysterious youth with glowing eyes. Wherever his brush touched, a golden light as fierce as fire would radiate from the paper. Even cultivators felt compelled to lean in and observe every single one of layman Qinglian's paintings. The manager continued his praise. Currently in the Jin Kingdom, countless women are infatuated with his poetry. Some fanatical female fans even sleep with layman Qinglian scrolls under their pillows, fantasizing about meeting their beloved. The manager added that they spent entire nights imagining his face. Furthermore, men could not resist the charm of this artistic genius either, offering endless praise. The manager went on to say that countless arrogant scholars had lowered their pride just to imitate his work. This unprecedented style of painting has even transcended the era, sparking a renaissance in the art world. Scholars of all ages find themselves compelled to stop and admire layman Qinglian's superlative works. Every painting possesses a divine spirit and radiates a dazzling golden spiritual power that captures everyone's attention. Suddenly recalling that empty, lonely, and desolate house, the manager said sentimentally, "Alas, it is only a pity that by the time his works were discovered, he had already gone into seclusion. His whereabouts are unknown, and you haven't had the honor of seeing his true face." His imagination flared again, depicting the genius painter walking into the deep mountains while 2 rows of solemn cultivators stood in awe. The manager lamented, "Since ancient times, scholars have held the highest status. What learned man doesn't want to make a name for himself and achieve great things to be respected? Yet this layman Qinglian treats fame and fortune like dirt and walked away with such grace. How can we not feel both ashamed and full of admiration? Don't you two agree?" After listening, Taoist Taihua and Su Changyu stood as still as wooden chickens, their faces screaming, "What the hell is going on?" as they thought, "Did I hear that right? Does this mean junior brother, my silly disciple?" Suddenly, proving that the older the ginger, the spicier it is, Taoist Taihua remained unfazed. He flashed a professional smile and spoke like a machine. "Precisely, it's exactly as we heard. This caused Su Changyu to turn his head in shock, wondering privately, "Master is lying to him." Meanwhile, the manager happily chimed in, "Then the two of you must have heard this painting has one major flaw. It is a portrait. Compared to the pure landscapes he excels at, the value is indeed worlds apart." These words made Su Changyu's heart tighten. He scratched his head in agitation, muttering to himself, "Ha ha ha, is that so? I thought my peerless looks would definitely add a lot of value to this painting. How embarrassing." Suddenly, the Taoist Taihua beside him turned dark, radiating a murderous aura. He gritted his teeth and sent a telepathic message, "Su Changyu, you brat, you can still laugh, didn't you hear? The value is worlds apart." Seeing this, Su Changyu stuck out his tongue in fear and stammered a persuasion, "Master, calm down, he hasn't said how much we lost yet, right?" At the same time, the manager looked at the portrait, and with an aggressive air gritted his teeth and weighed the value. "It has shrunk by at least tens of thousands of taels. What a tragic waste of a masterpiece." Hearing this, Taoist Taihua turned his head like a ghost, his eyes bloodshot and filled with murderous intent. He roared via telepathy, "My dear disciple, I really want to eat someone right now. I want to eat someone." Terrified, Su Changyu's face went pale as he reminded him, "Master, stay calm or we'll blow our cover." However, on the surface, Taoist Taihua maintained his sage-like aura and said flatly to the manager, "Enough nonsense, just give us a price. If it's lower than the other shops, we're leaving immediately." The pawnshop manager narrowed his eyes and smiled as he bargained. 10,000 taels, that's the highest we can offer. After all, this isn't a pure landscape and there's no inscribed poem. So, before he could finish, Taoist Taihua spat out a single word decisively, "Deal." This unexpected move from the sect leader of the Qingyun Dao sect made the manager exclaim, "Aren't you going to haggle?" Taoist Taihua casually urged, "No need, you have a kind face, just give us the money." Time passed, and outside the pawnshop the streets were bustling, walking down the road. Su Changyu caught up to Taoist Taihua and asked in confusion, "Master, I thought you would try another shop." He heard the explanation. "This is enough. One must know when to stop." His gaze was sharp. "Although he wasn't good at managing a sect, Taihua knew their own weight," he continued. "With our meager strength, if word gets out, could we escape? An ordinary man is innocent, but harboring a treasure makes him guilty." Then his attitude shifted, and he laughed heartily, listening to Su Changyu's praise. "Fortunately, Master was calm and witty. I hadn't even realized what was happening at the time." Taihua replied very smugly, "Of course, otherwise how could I be your master?" The two then looked at the large denomination silver note, ecstatic. Suddenly, Taihua held the note high and shouted, "This is 10,000 taels, we're rich, we're rich. I've never seen so much money in my life. The sect is finally saved." Following behind, Su Changyu clutched his chest, unable to stop grinning. But his joy didn't last long before Taihua smacked him on the head, making him cry out in pain. Taihua scolded, "By the way, you brat, who told you to paint a portrait? We lost tens of thousands of taels." Su Changyu rolled around in pain, wailing, "Ow, ow, ow, how was I supposed to know portraits weren't worth anything?" After venting his anger, Taihua looked at the silver note and muttered in deep thought, "What exactly is little Yi Ping's background? How many secrets is he keeping from us?" Hearing this, Su Changyu looked aside and speculated, "Maybe junior brother has his reasons. I don't think he's a bad person, maybe he doesn't even know himself, but what was with that expensive zon paper?" Taihua agreed. "I also don't think that kid is faking his innocence." Then his face darkened, and with a far-reaching gaze he decided on something important. "In that case, let this matter stay between us. Bury it in your heart and don't go poking around. Everyone has their secrets. When he wants to talk, he'll tell us naturally." Seeing the dark aura radiating from him, Su Changyu looked at the sect leader's back and commented, "It's rare to see you so serious. Given your character, I thought you'd go and scam a few more paintings out of him." Taihua suddenly said, "Enough nonsense. Let's go." This left Su Changyu confused. "Where are we going?" Taihua looked back, his eyes like those of a shady merchant, mysterious and vague. "Your junior brother helped the sect so much, as his master I must give him a gift." This confused Su Changyu even more. A gift? A moment later, the two stood before a 3-story building. A gold-lettered inscription on a red plaque read, "Miyuan Pavilion." Seeing this, Su Changyu's face darkened and he asked in disbelief, "I say, master, you aren't thinking of entering Miyuan Pavilion, are you?" That's it for today's episode. Everyone remember to follow the channel to watch the next episode. Su Changyu looked at Taoist Taihua, questioning his reality, and asked, "Master, have you become too arrogant? This is the biggest shop in Baguio City." However, Taihua stood with his hands behind his back and walked up the steps with grand momentum, replying, "What the hell are you afraid of? This money was earned by little junior brother anyway. Since he's a genius, we must go all out to nurture him. This is for the future of our Qingyun Dao sect. Don't mind that I'm usually greedy, lecherous, and unreliable. I'm very clear-headed at critical moments." In an instant he put on a rogue-like expression and used his fan to hide his devious thoughts, saying, "In the future, whether the sect rises to the 3rd, 2nd, or even 1st rank might all depend on him." Hearing this, Su Changyu rolled his eyes and shouted, feeling the sting in his wallet, "But this is Miyuan Pavilion. I heard it's terrifyingly expensive. but Taihua took out the silver note from the painting sale and teased his disciple excitedly, acting tough. Is there anything more expensive than this? Having said that, he turned toward the main entrance and continued. Fine, stop talking. Act like a rich person. Be confident. The key to being a rich bro is confidence. As soon as they entered, they were greeted by two beautiful girls dressed scantily, constantly blowing kisses. Welcome to Miyuen Pavilion. Please come in, Immortals. Seeing the beauties, Taihua's old face turned red with excitement. He secretly marveled, wow, rich people's places are indeed wonderful. Looking at their ample curves and then remembering the old man from the pawn shop, his interest vanished. Just then, a girl walked over and asked him excitedly, May I ask if you two are looking to buy Dharma treasures or secret manuals? Taihua immediately put on an air of nouveau riche arrogance, shaking his paper fan and tilting his head back. He replied, Secret manuals. Tell me straight, what's the price for the best ones? Hearing this, she immediately played along sycophantically. I can tell at a glance that you are a man of character who wants top-tier goods. The receptionist placed her hands on her knees, showcasing a charming S-curve figure, and quoted with narrowed eyes, A single first-rank manual in our shop costs about several 100,000 gold taels. It's currently our anniversary sale, so the price is 30 off. As soon as this number came out, Su Changyu's face turned pale. He was terrified, sweating profusely, his pupils shrinking and his mouth twisting as he stammered, How much? The other girl tilted her head slightly and winked playfully. Only several 100,000 gold taels. Sir, you won't find such a cheap price once the anniversary is over. These words left Su Changyu dejected, petrified on the spot as he complained internally, Cheap? She calls a price of hundreds of thousands cheap? The world of the rich is truly beyond imagination. Poverty has limited my imagination. Suddenly Taihua leaned in. With a grim face and gritted teeth he whispered a reminder, Gold tails, stay calm, don't blow our cover. Su Changyu, however, was already drenched in sweat, lamenting, But master, our money isn't even enough for one book. I told you not to come in. However, no matter how much his eldest disciple cowered in fear, Taihua remained cold. He tucked away his smile and asked the salesgirl, Beautiful, I want to ask, what is the price for the introductory version? Hearing this, the girl was filled with question marks. Thinking the customer had made a mistake, she asked in confusion, Only the introductory level. Are you sure? What use could an introductory version have? To the side, Taihua answered calmly with total confidence, Never mind if it's useful or not. I'm asking if you have it. These words made the girl turn serious as she reminded him, We have it, but I advise you to reconsider. Our shop does not accept returns. Despite this, he insisted on buying and asked for the price of a first-rank introductory version. The girl replied somewhat hesitantly, That price is naturally much cheaper. Meanwhile, Su Changyu was once again dumbfounded, trying to persuade his troublemaking sect leader. Calm down, master. Don't copy my posturing just for the sake of face. Why would you spend 10,000 taels on a useless introductory technique? Taihua blocked him with his hand and said with a shrewd look, Useless, my ass, did you forget how freakish your junior brother's comprehension is? The introductory level is enough. Hearing this, Su Changyu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He suddenly realized, Oh right, how could I forget? He could comprehend an entire set just from a sword mark one randomly made. So what will happen with an actual introductory manual? Then the devil inside him was revived. His eyes lit up and he gave a thumbs up to praise Taihua. Exactly, master is right, for that freakish junior brother the introductory version is definitely enough. No problem at all, we're going to make a killing this time. A moment later, the salesgirl returned with a tray holding the books and said, I just asked the manager. These 3 first-rank introductory manuals can be sold separately. Hearing Taihua ask, Which one is the most powerful? The girl held the books, glancing to the left as if recalling the contents of each. She then shared, The most powerful, that would be this one, the River Sword Technique section. It is called that because once mastered, the sword's momentum is as relentless and surging as a great river. Truly terrifying. Moreover, it is connected to even higher-level techniques. If someone with exceptional comprehension studies it, they might even have an epiphany and realize the next stage, the Spirit Sea Sword Technique. She then narrowed her eyes and quoted the price to Taoist Taihua, but this was also the most expensive one. Buying just the introductory chapter would cost 9,000 gold taels. This made Taihua's head lurch as if his soul had left his body. He was secretly horrified. A mere introductory chapter costs this much? After a moment of deep thought, as if some nerve had snapped, Taoist Taihua suddenly radiated an imposing aura. He thought, Damn it, I'm going all in. If I'm buying the most expensive one here. He widened his eyes, opened his mouth and roared, Wrap it up. Not only that, but under Su Changyu's dumbfounded gaze, Taihua pointed to several items on the shelf and said he would use the remaining money to buy some high-grade qi refining and qi boosting pills. Su Changyu rushed to stop him, asking, Master, are you really not going to leave a little for emergencies? He replied with unusual determination. Since I said we're going all out to nurture him, then we go all out. I'll fight for this even if it kills me. This decisiveness made Su Changyu's eyes bulge and his jaw drop. He never expected his usually unreliable scamming master to be so loyal and generous at this moment. He then narrowed his eyes and teased, "Master, you haven't been possessed today, have you?" Meanwhile, Taoist Taihua was already in tears, pulling out that silver note with agonizing pain. Heartbroken, he muttered to himself, "Nonsense, my 10,000 taels, oh my 10,000 taels." Seeing him clutching the money so tightly he wouldn't let go, the salesgirl had to remind him, "Please let go, sir, are you buying this or not?" A moment later at the shop entrance, Taoist Taihua was teary-eyed, completely petrified, being helped out by Su Changyu. He sobbed as he walked, "It still hurts so much, Changyu, it really hurts." This made Su Changyu incredibly embarrassed, and he said helplessly, "Master, you've been crying the whole way, it's very humiliating for me." Suddenly, Taihua let out a startled cry, his eyes wide. "All right, I just remembered, don't your second and third junior brothers have to take the alchemist and array master exams at the end of the year?" Su Changyu also snapped out of it and replied, "I think so, why are you going back in to buy more?" "But we're out of money." Hearing this, Taoist Taihua rolled his eyes in anger and loudly denied it. "How could I go back? Those two haven't even let me withdraw money lately. They're annoying enough as it is." Then he suddenly shouted, "Come on, master will take you to a great place with treasures." These words left Su Changyu utterly confused. Then he heard the sounds of hawking. "Secret manual clearance sale, secret manual clearance sale." A pot-bellied boss was sitting cross-legged behind a roadside stall, smiling with narrowed eyes as he promoted his goods. "Sold by the pound, 12 gold taels per pound. Buying is earning, no scams, no regrets." Seeing Taihua and Su Changyu, the boss enthusiastically beckoned them. "You two want a pound?" Looking at the scene before him, Su Changyu fell into deep self-doubt. Who am I? Where am I? His brain could not keep up with his master's train of thought at all. "This is the great place with treasures you were talking about." To the side, Taihua patted Su Changyu's shoulder and explained with a meaningful smile, "Don't look down on it just because it's cheap. You can really find treasures in here. Otherwise, where do you think your 4-seasons sword technique came from?" These words exploded in his mind like a thunderbolt. Su Changyu froze on the spot and blurted out, "What the hell?" before his disciple could react. Taihua had already stepped forward to bargain. 10 taels a pound, are you a highwayman? 10 silver taels for 10 pounds, sell it to me and I'll buy some." But the stall owner waved him off. "That won't do. These are all high-quality goods." Taihua immediately cursed him out. "Quality my ass, who are you trying to scare? Hurry up, are you selling or not? If not, we're leaving right now." Seeing this, the stall owner quickly tried to negotiate. 5 pounds at most, while Taoist Taihua was acting like he'd been injected with chicken blood. Shouting at the top of his lungs to haggle with the owner, Su Changyu crouched down to flip through a stack of books. Immediately, his brow furrowed, his mouth hung open in disbelief, and his expression looked as if his entire worldview had been shattered. That pile of books actually contained all sorts of bizarre and ridiculous titles, ranging from Martial Dao's Sacred Fetus developing the perfect vision to the Martial General. Hard work eventually leads to the day of soaring, and from the 10 dragons 10 elephant spirit art to the scandalous The Mistress Knocks on My Door at Midnight. The more he looked, the paler Su Changyu's face became. Cold sweat poured down as he fell into extreme panic, recalling what his master had just said. "Don't look down on it just because it's cheap. You can really find treasures in here." He gritted his teeth in rage, cursing inwardly, "What kind of crap could anyone possibly learn from these? If someone can actually master anything from this, I'll eat 3 pounds of boogers right here in front of the audience." Taihua Taoist clutched a massive bundle to his chest, looking immensely satisfied. Returning laden with secret manuals, he squinted his eyes, the very picture of self-indulgence. Su Changyu, meanwhile, watched his master with an expression that clearly said, "I don't know this man." Having witnessed the Taihua Taoist penny-pinching nature firsthand, he asked skeptically, "Master, aren't you going to buy anything for yourself?" Bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun, the Taihua Taoist grinned so wide his eyes vanished. "Why would I buy anything for myself?" he sighed with sudden sentiment. "As long as you all in the sect remain stable, that is the greatest happiness for this master." This left Su Changyu in a momentary daze. He began to wonder if the Taihua Taoist had been possessed. His master seemed positively nauseating today. Hearing this, the old man's face turned a violent shade of red. He whipped around and barked, "Scram, you brat, I'm giving you 7 days to master the introductory chapter of the River Sword art. Fail and you're banned from bragging for a whole year." This gave Su Changyu a fright. "Me, learn it?" he asked in disbelief. Sensing his resistance, the Taihua Taoist delivered a sharp rap to his head. Rolling his eyes, the master shouted, "Stop your nonsense. If we give the manuals directly to little Yi Ping, would he still need us? How would you show off then? Go and master that sword art quickly. An introductory chapter is something anyone with a brain can learn. Once you have, you can pose as a grandmaster and teach him. Since there's nothing else to do for the next 2 days, take these bargain bin books and give them to him first." Having received his master's instructions, Su Changyu stared at the large bundle that had been shoved into his hands and muttered to himself, "Master, with our junior brother's freakish talent, do you think he might actually gain enlightenment from this pile of trash?" This flight of fancy made the Taihua Taoist howl with laughter. He doubled over, pointing a finger at Su Changyu. "Peeved, ha ha ha, Su Changyu, are you serious? I think little Yi Ping has given you psychological trauma. Do you really think the four-season sword art was also bargain bin trash? I was just teasing you. He then pictured a scholar resting his chin on his hand, staring at calligraphy on a desk in frustration, and added that while street stall manuals often borrowed the artistic mood of real techniques, they were essentially just poorly written sensationalist novels, not actual cultivation methods. Do you understand the difference between pulp fiction and official history? The Taihua Taoist imagined those books filled with boastful illustrations and grand titles like Martial Tao Holy Embryo. There were even some with chibi-style dragon drawings. The Taihua Taoist continued, "Look at these books. Which one looks like a real cultivation technique? They're only good for fooling an honest simpleton like Yi Ping." Listening to his master's bluster, Su Changyu was still filled with doubt. "Then why did you say you bought them for second and third junior brothers to learn?" The Taihua Taoist shot him a sidelong glance. "That was a joke too. How could I actually let them practice those? I'm planning to put them in the scriptural library to keep up appearances. Otherwise, if Yi Ping goes there one day and sees it empty, the jig will be up. As for your second and third junior brothers, I'll find another way." The Taihua Taoist's smile was incredibly unreliable. "Ha ha ha, the thought of it is hilarious. Gaining enlightenment from this pile of junk, you'd need a brain that defies the heavens for that. If someone actually learns something from these scribbles, I, Taihua, will eat all these books. Every single page." Suddenly, Su Changyu rubbed his chin thoughtfully and proposed a more comprehensive plan. "Why don't we trick junior brother into making another painting? That would solve the cultivation problems for second and third junior brothers too." However, the Taihua Taoist sighed, looking at his eldest disciple as he analyzed the situation. "I've considered it, but I've already deceived him once for the sake of the sect. If I do it again, I'm afraid I'll start seeing little Yi Ping as nothing more than a cash cow. But looking at it from another perspective, a single casual painting from him is worth hundreds of years of our sect's effort. The sect needs money to grow, and money is hard to come by. It's a difficult choice." Su Changyu's jaw dropped at this heart-to-heart, shocked by his master's bizarre logic. Immediately after, he saw the Taihua Taoist return to his usual shiftless self. The old man twisted his mouth and grumbled, "This is why I hate having a conscience. It's a pain. Forget it, forget it. I'll think about it more when we get back. By the way," the Taihua Taoist glared at his disciple, who was only good for putting on airs, "let's talk business. You need to teach him swordsmanship properly over the next 2 months. I intend to have him participate in the Qingzhou sword trial." Suddenly entrusted with a heavy responsibility, Su Changyu was struck dumb, his mouth hung open in confusion. "The Qingzhou sword trial, are you serious?" Before his troublemaking master could answer, Su Changyu was already frightened out of his wits. He waved his hands in refusal. "Master, don't be rash. Junior brother might be a freak when it comes to enlightenment, but he hasn't cultivated any internal energy yet. He's all flash and no substance. That's the premier sword event in Qingzhou. People actually die in those fights. Please don't do anything impulsive." He recalled when he had been like a common chicken wandering into a flock of swans, asking himself blankly, "Who am I? Where am I?" Su Changyu had participated in a Qingzhou sword trial once. It was where the top geniuses of Qingzhou gathered, and he had basically been there just to make up the numbers. But his luck had been uncanny, advancing through several rounds because his opponents failed to show up. When he finally ran into one of the top 5, the Yi Ping of that time, as Su Changyu saw himself, was like an infant who only knew fancy tricks. Participating was essentially a death sentence. However, the Taihua Taoist clenched his fist, affirming with absolute confidence, "You don't understand. I'll explain it to you in detail later. Remember, don't say a word to your junior brother or sister. Just tell them I got the stolen money back. Not a single word more, understood?" After Su Changyu agreed, the scene shifted to the back mountain, where Yi Ping was still diligently practicing his sword. Every step he took and every move he made was as light as a floating cloud, yet the power exploding from the sword shadows was incredibly fierce, the golden energy shining even brighter than the setting sun. Observing this from the side, Su Changyu was moved to tears. He covered his mouth and marveled privately. "Ah, I was only gone for a little while and he's already grasped sword momentum. I'm so jealous, so envious." It took him a moment to find his voice. "How is the practice going, Yi Ping?" The youth immediately stopped and looked at Su Changyu with curiosity. "Eldest senior brother, why are you here?" Su Changyu resumed his pose, hands behind his back and standing tall as he gazed into the distance. "Has your practice been tedious lately?" he asked with feigned concern. Yi Ping, like a kitten receiving attention from its master, pricked up his ears and replied with a smile, "Senior brother, I'm making progress every day. It's not tedious at all." This sent a pang of guilt through Su Changyu. Cold sweat poured down his back, his brow furned, and he felt like weeping. "Progress every day, is that something a human says?" Suddenly, Yi Bin looked at Su Changyu in confusion. "Why do you ask, senior brother?" Su Changyu crossed his arms. "It's nothing. I just thought that if you were bored I would give you a new manual." Upon hearing this, Yi Ping rushed forward excitedly, leaning in close and shouting, "Senior brother, I'm bored to death." Meanwhile, Deep in his heart, his eyes were sparkling. He thought to himself that a single sword mark from his eldest senior brother had allowed him to comprehend a sword technique. If he were given another immortal manual, wouldn't he ascend to godhood on the spot? Without making Yi Ping wait, Su Changyu produced a worn-out book. This manual is called The Primordial God-Fiend Art. The cover of the book depicted a roaring beast with its maw wide open, emitting a brilliant golden light from its throat. Yi Ping couldn't believe he was being given such a divine method. His eyes widened in shock. The Primordial God-Fiend Art, if it weren't a peerless technique, how would it dare call itself God-Fiend? A subtle knowing smile played on his lips as he marveled inwardly. This is it. If this doesn't count as a hidden sect, what does? Seeing Yi Ping grinning ear to ear with the book, Su Changyu began to spin a tall tale. Junior brother, I stumbled upon this technique by chance in an ancient ruin. Its origins are unknown. However, as cultivators, we can not only practice the way of the sword. Body tempering and spiritual cultivation are both indispensable. He folded his arms and taught with a firm gaze, You have already missed the optimal period for spiritual cultivation, and your spiritual roots are quite poor, so focusing on body tempering is a good thing. With a powerful physique and the swordsmanship you've learned, you won't be inferior to any spiritual cultivator. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Changyu's internal self clutched his burning face in embarrassment. What on earth am I making up? Even I feel awkward saying that. Who would want body tempering if they could do spiritual cultivation? Outwardly, however, he calmly turned to look at the horizon. I'll be going now if there's nothing else. Comprehend it well, he warned himself silently. Time to slip away. If I stay any longer, I'll definitely blow my cover. Meanwhile, the pure and innocent Yi Ping was moved to tears of gratitude. I shall follow your teachings, senior brother. Once Su Changyu left, his expression changed, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Once I master the river sword art, I'll come back and give him a real earful of bragging. Just thinking about it makes me restless. I love bragging. Bragging makes me happy. Time flew by, and deep into the night, Yi Ping was still practicing hard on the mountain peak. His sword strikes crisscrossed with extreme ferocity. Yi Ping muttered to himself, The Primordial God-Fiend Art. His eyes glowed in the darkness as he grinned. Just the name alone is incredibly cool. The Thunder Gold art from before can't even compare. I'm itching to start practicing it immediately. He didn't stop his sword movements, focusing his mind and swinging his blade with resolve. However, I must be fully concentrated when I practice. I cannot be careless. His brow furrowed slightly. His eyes filled with fighting spirit as he promised himself, the more it's like this, the more I need to stay steady. I'll focus on consolidating the Four Thunders sword art first. I must not rush into things. The next day at Changyu's residence, the courtyard shimmered under the mountain sun. He sat cross-legged. The introductory chapter of the river sword art spread out before him, looking very focused. However, after flipping through a few pages, Su Changyu's face began to fall, turning as grim as if he had a grudge against the whole world. His eyes stared as if he'd seen a ghost, sinking into utter despair. With a what-the-hell expression, he lamented inwardly, What do? I don't understand it at all. Didn't he say anyone with a brain could learn this? Having received the manual from Su Changyu, Yi Ping wished he had 6 arms so he could start practicing immediately. Since he hadn't finished the Four Thunders sword intent, he didn't abandon the old for the new, continuing to hone every bolt of thunder sword chi to perfection. Yi Ping's speed grew faster and faster, his form appearing as if split in two, his sword chi fierce as it crisscrossed through the air. Eventually, the sword shadows in the sky became so dense they collided, triggering a world-shaking boom. After half a day of effort, Yi Ping finally mastered all the stances of the Four Thunders. He leaned on his sword hilt exhausted, his head low as he gasped for air. Surrounded by the white smoke of the explosions, drenched in sweat, Yi Ping sighed. Now only the sword intent remains for the Four Thunders sword art. He stood up and walked toward the manual resting on a nearby rock. Although eldest senior brother never mentioned how difficult it is to grasp sword intent, I understand that it represents the will of the sword style, therefore I definitely cannot rush it. Yi Ping stared at the book, not rushing to touch it, but instead began to imagine his senior brother's profound intentions. Otherwise, failing to gain enlightenment is a small matter. If I misunderstand it, that would be a disaster. Eldest senior brother gave me this manual neither too early nor too late, but precisely at this critical moment. He clearly feared I would be too impatient and grasp the wrong sword intent. Suddenly, he felt the sunlight on his body, turning his sweat into sparkling stardust. Yi Ping raised an eyebrow and gazed into the distance despite his dark circles, marveling, as expected of eldest senior brother. Truly far-sighted. He then opened the manual and began to slowly absorb every precious line of text. The book, titled The Primordial God-Fiend Body Tempering Art, was densely packed with techniques. The first few pages didn't have a single illustration. Yi Ping read, I am Taoist Venerable Mo Quan, born before heaven and earth were divided. After experiencing 360 million eons, I have finally achieved creation and oneness with the world. This heart method was discovered by chance while I was sensing the heavens and earth. An image of a red-eyed man laughing wildly flashed through his mind. The text described how he used golden spiritual power to create a whirlwind that struck a green dragon. Taoist Venerable Mo Quan claimed that while all things in heaven and earth knew only spiritual cultivation, they were ignorant of the power of body tempering, foolishly considering shaking mountains to be its limit. However, a true body cultivator could pluck the sun and moon, grasp the stars, traverse the heavens with their physical body, and suppress all things in the world with a single punch. At that moment, a massive phantom of a divine general condensed behind him, possessing a hideous head and 4 pairs of sharp bone horns. Taoist Venerable Mo Quan called the highest realm of body tempering God Fiend, a demonic physique housing a divine treasury, absorbing the essence, blood, and organs of gods, a body of a true demon. Only then can it be called a God Fiend body. Reading this, Yi Ping was stunned, his face turning pale as he cried out inwardly. A demonic physique housing a divine treasury, suppressing all things with a single punch, only one word for it. Incredible, he continued reading the mysterious contents. However, to practice this art one must endure 10,000 kinds of agony. It is not for ordinary men but only for those with great willpower, great perseverance, and great wisdom. Do you dare to take the challenge? His fighting spirit was ignited by these words. Yi Ping's masculine pride flared up, his brow furrowing as a domineering aura filled his eyes. He thought, what does it matter? If cultivation isn't painful, what's the point? His reputation as a bookworm from before his transmigration was well earned, with a determination that would lead him into a pit of fire even if he knew it was there. Yi Ping flipped to the next page. Let's see what the main text says, he muttered. However, when he saw the twisted, crooked diagram on the page, his heart skipped a beat. Suddenly the image of Su Changyu teaching him with a serious face surfaced. The diagrams of God Fiends drawn in the book are the God Fiend body refining visualizations. This was derived from the insights a certain great deity gained from heaven and earth. You must study it diligently. Despite his eldest senior brother's words, when Yi Ping saw the illustrations with his own eyes, he couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Gritting his teeth, he sank into a deep state of self-doubt. He understood the theory, but the pose was simply too humiliating. Who would actually practice such a ridiculous and comical position? Despite his utter disdain that afternoon on the mountain peak behind the Taihua Taoist sect, Yi Ping cast aside his pride and began to contort himself into the limp-boned posture depicted in the primordial God Fiend art. Though his face was flushed crimson with shame, he grit his teeth and thought with a sense of resignation. Eldest senior brother would never lie to me. With his head tilted, his back arched, and both hands raised high toward the sky, his entire body was twisted beyond recognition. Yi Ping silently encouraged himself. Yi Ping, stop overthinking, focus, concentrate. As long as I work hard, I will surely succeed. Time flew by, and meanwhile at Moen Pavilion in the state of Jin, a room filled with scrolls and calligraphy, a butler entered and saw the mistress of the house hunched over her desk busy at work. Seeing her writing nonstop, the butler asked, Fairy Mo, are you still not finished? It's nearly the hour of the tiger. If you don't submit the manuscript soon, there will be real trouble. Hearing this, Fairy Mo straightened her back. With a melancholy look in her eyes, she continued writing while replying, all right, I know, I'm working on it, stop nagging me. The butler suddenly raised an eyebrow and advised her awkwardly yet tactfully, that primordial God Fiend body tempering art has barely sold a few copies. From its release until now, less than 3 copies have been sold in total. You should stop writing that kind of secret manual. It's far too exaggerated and nobody believes it. Cultivators nowadays all prefer reading books that are simple and direct. He didn't stop there, continuing to dampen her spirits. Look at the books on the bestseller list right now. Books like How to Make One Spirit Stone Work 10 Times Harder are the ones selling like wildfire. These words annoyed Fairy Mo immensely. She pouted aggrievedly and rested her face on the desk, complaining, so annoying, if you're going to keep nagging, go write it yourself. I just happen to like this style. Suddenly she remembered something, looked up, and with a complete 180-degree turn in attitude asked with a curious sidelong glance, by the way, how is the matter I asked you to look into? The butler replied, I've heard the news. Next year, the Academy of the 10 Kingdoms will be recruiting students. This is truly good news for you, Fairy Mo. She immediately blurted out in excitement, oh, fantastic. I can finally go to school. There must be many interesting people at the Premier Academy. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On the mountain peak behind the Taihua Taoist sect, Yi Ping remained standing like a wooden stake. Suddenly he tilted his head back and sprayed out a mouthful of blood, his hands twitching. Yi Ping collapsed to the ground, weakly supporting his body. He didn't even wipe the blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, merely muttering to himself in a daze. I've vomited blood 3 times now, yet I haven't gained a single insight into this technique. Looking at the open primordial God Fiend art before him, he lamented, the technique clearly states that those with high talent can comprehend this heaven-watching God Fiend map at a single glance. It seems my comprehension is still too poor. Yi Ping then slowly stood up and brushed the dust off his knees. Though his expression was dejected, his will remained exceptionally firm. He thought, no, it can't end like this. Again, it is precisely at times like these that one's perseverance is tested. His face darkened, filled with self-reproach as he set a plan. From today on I will increase my cultivation time to 22 hours. 2 hours of rest is enough. Yi Bim Kemudian turned and looked up at the sky with indignation. Gritting his teeth, he shouted, if my talent is lacking, then I must put in more effort than anyone else. Until I fully comprehend this technique, I will never stop. The next day, as the sun shone upon the mountain peak, Yi Ping maintained that contorted, waist-twisting pose, silently consoling himself. Think, Yi Ping, you must keep thinking. The simpler the technique, the more profound its content. Conversely, the most profound truths are often the simplest. Until night fell, his posture never wavered, and his feet didn't move even a millimeter. He analyzed internally. It makes sense. The so-called Great Tao is found in simplicity. Furthermore, if this heavenly monarch map were summarized using the simplest logic, is it beholding heaven and earth, observing the myriad things, or perhaps viewing the whole, or seeing the big picture? No, these are all too superficial. As the sun and moon cycled, Yi Ping remained in place, deep in thought. What exactly was the essence? I once read a phrase in a book called The 3 Eyes and 6 Supernatural Powers. The 3 eyes seem to refer to the flesh eye, the heavenly eye, and the dharma eye. The heavenly eye is an extrasensory vision, capable of seeing matter beyond the physical surface that ordinary people cannot perceive with the naked eye. His eyes seemed to emit a faint blue glow. Yi Ping stared at the sky, gritting his teeth as he recalled. Then what is the dharma eye? It seems to be a higher level of cognition regarding the essence and laws of all things, not limited to the appearances seen by the physical eye. He gazed into the high sky with extreme focus, unwilling to accept his own mediocrity. Yi Ping muttered, I must strive to think on a higher level, to understand the essence and laws of all things. He grit his teeth. His brow furrowed as every neuron in his brain operated at full speed. He murmured, vowing to find that higher level of essence and law. Beholding the heavens, the dharma eye. Suddenly, the light of truth seemed to pierce through Yi Ping's heart. His eyes snapped wide open, his face filled with astonishment. Immediately after, a silver radiance emanated from his pupils, and his countenance instantly became calm and serene. He blurted out, I've got it. At the same time, Yi Ping watched the sun dip below the horizon. Sighing with emotion, I seem to have comprehended a little bit. Yi Ping gazed up at the distant high sky, murmuring philosophies of life to himself. To an ordinary person, the sky seems merely vast and boundless, yet they do not know what the so-called sky truly is. His brow furrowed and his eyes widened as he ground his teeth, summarizing the truth he had just realized. The Buddha and the demon reside in the original heart. The realm of the mind determines how one perceives all living beings. Yes, eldest senior brother, I understand now. The true meaning of the secret manual is that a god and a demon lie dormant within everyone's origin. One need only look inward with sincerity to find them. Yi Ping let out a long sigh, gently stroking his chest to soothe the heartache that had yet to subside. He lamented inwardly, Yi Ping, oh Yi Ping, how could you be so dull-witted? You nearly missed the moment of enlightenment. Immediately after, he thrust a fist toward the sky and pressed his other hand together in a half-prayer, as if a bodhisattva were manifesting through him. He thought, there is no need to look up at the sky at all. That was a misunderstanding. Observing the heavens actually requires one to turn the heart into an eye to perceive the original heart of this world. One must seek it to find it. Then Yi Ping opened his arms to welcome the breeze and closed his eyes to feel the vitality surrounding him, continuing his realization. At the deepest part of the soul, there is one's own god and demon. As a gust of wind swept past, he suddenly snapped his clear eyes open. He stared intently ahead, wanting to take in every detail of the scenery. Suddenly, a deity with 12 arms appeared before Yi Ping's eyes. The figure had its primary hands clasped together, while the remaining arms each held a divine weapon. Behind it hung a massive blazing orb of fire. Yi Ping's pupils constricted sharply, nearly losing focus. He frowned and wondered, is this truly my inner god demon? It looks incredibly powerful. Meanwhile, in another world, night had fallen over the Academy of the 10 Nations. In the ruins of the rear mountains, several cultivators stood scattered across the rocks, watching a meteor streak across the night sky. A man with beast-like fangs cried out in excitement, such an omen signifies the descent of a godhead. The heavens have not forgotten the righteous path. Seeing this, a dignified man of strict bearing turned to remind him, how many times must I tell you, learn restraint? How does that look of yours resemble someone from the righteous path? HMPH, you look like a total demon, rebuked. The fanged man turned pale and responded as obediently as a pup. Senior brother, I'm sorry, I was just too excited. Seeing that he acknowledged his mistake, the senior brother continued to gaze at the sky, musing, why are you so excited? Such celestial omens are not always accurate, he thought to himself. If we relied solely on omens, our righteous path would likely have fallen long ago. These words left the fanged man feeling unsatisfied, and he stammered, trying to argue. But senior brother, only to be cut off. Yes, I am aware. Let us observe further. The dignified man allowed his cloak to snap in the wind as he looked up at the brightest star in the night sky, sighing, "If it is gold, its brilliance cannot be hidden forever." A moment later the meteor tore through the starry sky, leaving a straight and exceptionally striking trail. At the same time, in the great Shah imperial palace, the king, seated upon his dragon throne, also saw the meteor. A woman in a fitted cheongsam sitting beside him had just placed a berry to her lips when she blurted out, "Your Majesty, a star has fallen. Could it be the omen of the sovereign's advent?" She then leaned closer to the throne, looking at the king with uncertainty. "What if a godhead truly descends into this world, but not within our great Shah?" Resting his chin on his hand, the king of great Shah revealed a pair of cold golden pupils and declared with absolute authority, "Then we shall simply seize it. All under heaven is the king's land. What is a mere godhead?" Meanwhile, on the ice plains of demonic beasts, there was nothing but white, sprawling snow. As the meteor's trail crossed the aurora in the sky, a white-haired man standing before the carcass of a giant beast was also drawn to the anomaly. Bare-chested, he looked up to watch the streak left by the meteor. The white-haired man possessed knotted muscles, and his red pupils flickered with a hint of curiosity. He then broke into a grin, thinking with great interest, the birth of a godhead, fascinating. In the direction he was glancing, a monster with a goat's head and glowing green eyes was charging toward him with a weapon in hand. As he unsheathed his sword, he thought, "It seems my demon race must work harder as well." Time passed, and the scene shifted back to Su Changyu's residence, where a massive full moon illuminated the small hut atop the mountain. At this moment, Su Changyu's eyes were rolled back, as he studied that 1,000 gold-valued secret manual he had read until he was practically vomiting bile. He complained dejectedly, "This makes me want to throw up." He collapsed to the ground, scratching himself as 2 streaks of tears burst from his eyes. He howled, "It's just like before, I can't understand a single thing. Is there no bastard out there who can point me toward a clear path of cultivation? This is infuriating." Su Changyu squatted and looked out at the rolling mountain range amidst the sea of clouds, complaining inwardly, "It's one thing that I can't master it. I'm used to that anyway. The real problem is master." Suddenly, his imagination ran wild, picturing Taoist Taihua with bloodshot eyes, waving a long sword and roaring, "Give me back my 10,000 taels of silver." That was 10,000 taels. Instantly, Su Changyu froze in place, trembling all over. He thought in terror, "That money-grubbing fellow will definitely never let me off." Just as he was sighing at the heavens, lamenting his lot in life and worrying about his future, he suddenly saw a cyan meteor streak across the sky, leaving him bewildered. The meteor? But he didn't give it much thought. He picked up his pipe, leaned against a rock and sank into a daze. Whenever the hour of the rat arrived, his mood would become exceptionally depressed and dark. Could this be the legendary late-night depression? Taking a deep puff of smoke, Su Changyu asked himself with a sense of loss, "Tell me, what is the meaning of life?" His lonely figure, sitting solo on the mountain peak under the moonlight, was seen clearly by his junior sister at the foot of the mountain. She rested her chin in her hand, leaning back, and thought with casual curiosity, "What's been wrong with eldest senior brother lately? He looks at the stars by himself every time at this hour." The junior sister glanced toward the Qingyun Taoist sect. Sitting nearby in meditation, the second senior brother, Shu Luokan, spoke up to inquire, "Does he perhaps have something on his mind? What do you think?" Shu Luokan opened his eyes and looked ahead, speculating, "It must be because the new junior brother's talent is too poor. But as the eldest senior brother of the sect, for him to lack even this much patience, how unseemly." With that he stood up, his frost-cold face showing resolve. "Tomorrow I shall go and teach that little junior brother a lesson, and give him a lecture on eldest senior brother's behalf to show him what it means to be a proper mentor." However, they had no idea that a world-shaking anomaly had already occurred on Yi Ping's side. The 12-armed divine statue towered in the void, surrounded by the echoes of eerie incantations. The statue's eyes erupted with dazzling golden divine light, and even the cinnabar mark on its brow was glowing as whispers filled the air. Yi Ping sat cross-legged on the ground, hands folded, eyes closed in meditative cultivation. A moment later he opened his eyes, which were swirling with the brilliance of a galaxy, and said, "So this thing is actually a body-tempering technique exclusive to me." Standing before the giant statue, Yi Ping seemed incredibly small, yet he felt no pressure at all. Instead he was strangely excited. He closed his eyes to concentrate. Although only a few seconds had passed in reality in Yi Ping's consciousness, it felt as though several hours had gone by. This god-demon within his mindscape was forging an indestructible iron body, grasping the great Tao of heaven and earth, standing tall between the firmaments. The god-demon lifted Yi Ping high, looking down upon the person who had summoned it. The statue's gaze was like fire, and its pressure swept out in all directions. This was no joke. His entire body emanated a terrifying aura that made it impossible to look at him directly. The god-demon's red pupils suddenly widened, those all-seeing eyes staring fixedly at Yi Ping. Simultaneously, an image of a deity practicing mysterious techniques appeared within Yi Ping's pupils. A massive influx of insights into the technique crashed into his consciousness like a vast ocean, churning within his mind. In reality, he was sitting cross-legged atop the mountain peak, white mist swirling behind him. Yiping's eyes were wide, shimmering with a light like green jade, unblinking, a sign that he had entered a deep meditative trance. A moment later, Yiping stood up and looked into the distance, pondering. The so-called primordial divine demonic art is about using heaven as the hammer and earth as the furnace to smelt all things and undergo a complete transformation. 3 half-human, half-ghost divine demonic forms appeared in his mind, colored red, green, and blue respectively. He analyzed that the technique was divided into 5 realms: minor god demon, great god demon, supreme god demon, great Tao god demon, and great Tao ancestral god. Thinking of the small-scale god demon that could sever the head of a dragon-like beast, he realized the mental mantra currently in his consciousness was for the minor god demon realm. It required forging the physical body 81 times using the heavenly hammer and earthen furnace. Before the minor god demonic body could be condensed, by then the physical body would be as strong as a true dragon, the blood chi as vigorous as a blazing sun, and the spirit perfectly whole. He imagined himself standing between heaven and earth, wielding the heavenly hammer and earthen furnace, welcoming the spiritual energy of the world like a thunderclap, with himself as the center, energy transformed into a torrent pouring into his body. Then he channeled the spiritual energy into the supreme furnace below. Yiping believed the key to practicing the god-demonic body-tempering art lay in the heavenly hammer and earthen furnace, constant tempering through spiritual resonance with heaven and earth, using the world's power to form a supreme furnace. Then one must transform the heavenly might into a divine hammer to repeatedly strike the physical body. Only through perseverance can the god-demonic body be achieved. When the energy became too abundant for the body to bear, Yiping felt as if his entire being was being torn to pieces, with every joint in his limbs being dismantled. This process was extremely dangerous, as the physical body would constantly break down, naturally requiring a transcendent will. After analyzing this, Yiping's mouth hung open in shock and he murmured, "The stronger the mental mantra, the more it tests one's heart and resolve. I completely understand that point." Then he clutched his forehead, feeling quite lost, falling into a state of mind that was 30% conflicted and 70% helpless. However, to condense the heavenly hammer and earthen furnace, one needs a massive amount of spiritual energy to communicate with heaven and earth. What should I do now? I have no spiritual energy in my body at all. No matter how high my talent is, there's nothing I can do. Suddenly, Yiping thought of those powerful figures whose bodies radiated spiritual energy like a rainbow, and he thought, but I've heard that medicinal pills in the cultivation world can generate a certain amount of spiritual energy. Stroking his chin, he narrowed his eyes and calculated with a grave expression, but all medicine has a side effect. I haven't even stepped into the chi refining realm yet, so I don't know if something will go wrong. I must not be reckless. Master once said that second senior brother specializes in the Tao of alchemy. Perhaps I can seek his advice. Meanwhile, at the second senior brother's residence, all the rooms were brightly lit. Shu Luokan opened his palm, conjuring a ball of fire, seemingly plotting something. His eyes were dark and sinister, carrying a hint of ruthlessness. He resolved to refine another pill, but he had to stabilize his mindset and not be swayed by external things. I must not wallow in self-pity. Tomorrow I will definitely let eldest senior brother see what it means to be a proper mentor. Time flew by, and the next morning was another beautiful day with clear skies. At the eldest senior brother's residence, although the sunlight was brilliant, the entire house was permeated by an indescribable gloom. Su Changyu was kneeling on the ground, head hanging low, his entire body radiating an aura of sorrow. His eyes were rolled back and his face was as pale as ash as he screamed frantically in his heart, "I don't understand it, I don't understand it at all." The extreme sense of frustration made him simply lie flat on the ground, limbs splayed out in a state of utter despair. He thought, forget it, I'm not learning anymore, and I'm not thinking about it. As long as I don't try, failure will never catch up to me. His heavy dark circles and exhausted face showed that he had been up all night. He secretly justified his own mediocrity. So what if I don't understand? What of it? 100 years from now, it will all just be a handful of yellow soil, nothing has meaning, and pursuing success has no meaning either. Just as Su Changyu was sinking into extreme depression, Taoist Taihua strolled up behind him. Coming closer, Taoist Taihua looked up and was instantly taken aback. Seeing Su Changyu staring blankly into the distance, Taoist Taihua asked with concern, "Changyu, how is it going? That introductory volume of the river sword technique worth 9,000 taels, have you understood it?" Su Changyu's mental state switched instantly. With a face full of smiles and narrowed eyes, he began to talk nonsense, "Master. What difference does it make whether I understand it or not? Only by letting go of obsessions can one live with freedom and joy." Seeing this, Taoist Taihua was so startled he covered his face and gasped, "Holy crap, that creepy look in your eyes, you brat. Just what exactly have you practiced yourself into?" Su Changyu maintained that stone statue-like squinting smile as he replied, reporting to Master, "Your disciple has mastered nothing, but your disciple no longer cares." Hearing this, Taoist Taihua didn't scold him but instead looked like he had expected it. He curled his lip and said, "Yeah, I figured it would be like this. Come on, accompany me to the Silent Forest Mountains." However, those words made Su Changyu's face turn instantly pale, looking as gloomy as if he'd seen a ghost, and he began to question his life. Yet Taoist Taihua explained matter-of-factly, "Experiencing a true life-and-death struggle might help you successfully break through. It will be good for you. I will go with you." Su Changyu felt a wave of dizziness, eyes welling with tears as he tried to decline with a sob in his voice. "Master, that's the Silent Forest Mountains." Imagining the various strangely shaped and terrifyingly powerful demonic beasts, he wailed. "The Silent Forest Mountains are the most dangerous area in all of Qingzhou. Because the spiritual energy there is so abundant, countless powerful demonic beasts make it their home. Even for disciples of the strongest sects in Qingzhou, losing one's life there is a common occurrence." Despite this, Taoist Taihua remained expressionless as he said, "I'll take you there for experience, and at the same time I can hunt some low-level demonic beasts to earn some money to buy techniques for your junior brothers. I've decided, I'm not going to trick Yi Ping into painting for money anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, Su Changyu bolted, fleeing for his life and shouting, "I'm not going to the Silent Forest Mountains, my life is more important than anything." Seeing this, Taoist Taihua flew into a rage and leapt after him, roaring, "Enough nonsense, didn't you just say you didn't care about anything anymore?" A while later, at the Fourth Thunder Sword Sect, one of the three major sects, buildings stood tall upon the cliffs, looking far more grand than the Qingyun Taoist sect. An elder of the Fourth Thunder Sword Sect looked at the disciples gathered before him and spoke, "Very well, in this sect sword trial assembly, 7 people have already cultivated the Spring Thunder Sword technique to the great perfection stage." Among them, he observed 2 disciples with piercing gazes and a hint of purple energy in their eyes, praising 2 have even reached the level of peak mastery. The elder of the Fourth Thunder Sword sect stood with his hands behind his back. However, Jin Bao performed exceptionally well, proving himself worthy of being called the strongest genius in Qingzhou. After his praise, however, his gaze turned cold as he issued a reminder. "But this Qingzhou Sword Dao Assembly is no ordinary event. With only 2 months left until the start, none of you can afford to be careless. To ensure we break into the top 10, the sect leader will personally guide your cultivation. Is that clear?" Upon hearing this, the disciples were left speechless with shock, and the crowd immediately erupted into a flurry of whispers. "The sect leader is giving personal guidance? Is this for real? Has something happened? I haven't even seen the sect leader once since I joined the sect." The elder of the Fourth Thunder Sword sect waited for the commotion to die down before calmly explaining, "You need not know the reasons. Just remember that you must fight with everything you have to secure a place in the top 10. Furthermore, we have received confirmed news that the hidden sects within the borders of Qingzhou will also be sending disciples to participate in the assembly." This news landed like a heavy hammer, instantly dampening the spirits of those who had just been excited by the prospect of the sect leader's guidance. The atmosphere became somber and oppressive as someone blurted out, "Hidden sects, then this time things won't be easy to handle." Thinking of those powers secluded in deep mountains and frozen plains, they couldn't help but sigh. Above Qingzhou lies the Jin Kingdom, and above the Jin Kingdom lie the 10 nations. Legend has it that a great turmoil once occurred within the 10 nations, leading to the downfall of several major sects. A portion of their core strength subsequently went into hiding in various remote areas. There are also some hidden sects with single lineage inheritances, who possess supreme legacies. These sects are far beyond anything the Fourth Thunder Sword sect can hope to rival. After some time, the fiery red main hall of the Fourth Thunder Sword sect shone exceptionally bright under the sunlight. The 5 elders of the Fourth Thunder Sword sect, both men and women, stood in formation, clasping their hands and saluting in unison. "Greetings, sect leader." From the high seat, the leader replied, "At ease. I have summoned you all here today to discuss an important matter." The sect leader of the Fourth Thunder Sword sect stood with his twin swords crossed behind his back, looking down at the chief elders of the sect. Once everyone was seated, he furrowed his brows, assuming a grave expression, and said, "I have summoned you all today to discuss a matter of great importance." His mysterious and cryptic words immediately caused a stir among the crowd, who began asking what had happened. "Indeed, sect leader, what exactly has occurred? Does it have something to do with the command of the Great Profound Sword Tower?" However, despite their many guesses, they failed to hit the mark. Shaking his head in denial, the sect leader replied, "No, if it were merely the command of the Great Profound Sword Tower, it wouldn't be this shocking. Have you ever heard of the 10 Nations Academy?" The only female elder present furrowed her brow and asked in confusion, "The 10 Nations Academy? Could it be that legendary academy is recruiting students again?" Thinking of that academy perched high above the clouds, reaching into the heavens, she shared that the 10 Nations Academy was the premier immortal cultivation institution on the entire continent. Even the lowest-ranked student there could become a peerless genius of the world. However, their selection process was extremely rigorous and mysterious. Sometimes they wouldn't admit a single student for an entire decade. It is an existence that countless cultivators dream of but can never reach. Sensing that the matter was not simple, the female elder speculated, "Sect leader, do you mean the Jin dynasty is sending people to participate in the Sword Dao conference again?" Upon hearing the sect leader's confirmation, it was as expected. Unlike before, the dynasty had secretly dispatched a special envoy to pick out fine talents to send to the 10 Nations Academy. "Furthermore, I already know who that person is." At this, the elders were struck with astonishment and asked in unison, "What, you already know? Who is it?" In their minds, a grand palace loomed, flickering under the unpredictable rays of the rising sun. Beneath the main palace, other halls seemed insignificant, yet they still held a high position that others looked up to, with surging golden energy churning beneath their feet. The sect leader of the Four Thundersword sect stated plainly that in the Black Tortoise continent, the dynasty's status was not inferior to that of a high-level immortal sect. If it were the #1 sect of the Jin kingdom, the imperial court would naturally show some deference. But if it were the #1 sect of Qingzhou, while it held weight, it wasn't enough to override the court. He then produced a scroll and displayed it before everyone, saying, "Look, everyone." On the scroll was a side profile of Su Changyu from when he modeled for Yi Ping. The grass at their feet swayed in the cool morning breeze. Upon seeing it, everyone was stunned and exclaimed, "What an exquisite painting! This is the style of layman Qinglian. But what does this mean? Could the person in the painting be that special envoy?" Seeing the conversation drift off course, the sect leader put his hands behind his back and said, "Layman Qinglian completely vanished 6 months ago. Think about it, where would he go?" Only then did several elders realize and guess, could he have joined a small immortal sect? Impossible. With his reputation, he would be more than qualified to join our Four Thunder Sword sect. Recalling the mysterious swordsman who could manifest lightning within his sword strikes, the sect leader said, "As far as I know, the Jin dynasty court has a peerless swordsman who was once a genius at the 10 Nations Academy. For some reason he was expelled and became the commander of the Jin kingdom's inspectors. The world only knows of the Grand Void Sword Sovereign, but few know that this inspector has also stepped into the realm of sword intent." Suddenly the sect leader crossed his arms, resting his chin on his hand and narrowing his eyes as he offered his deduction. "And yet a new work by layman Qinglian has appeared here. It's highly likely he is in the Jin kingdom. My deduction cannot be wrong. There are also rumors that this inspector is not only a peerless swordsman but also as handsome as Panin. How could we not know of such a figure in the Jin kingdom?" The elder in charge of disciple discipline didn't quite believe this upon hearing it and asked back, "Sect leader, this is all just your speculation. Do you have any concrete evidence?" The sect leader's gaze shot out like searchlights emitting a brilliant blue light. The sect leader of the Four Thundersword sect grinned confidently. "Hey, of course I do." He then tossed the scroll forward while simultaneously releasing his golden spiritual power. In an instant, layman Qinglian's painting erupted with a dazzling golden light. The energy swept out in all directions, creating a whirlwind that buffeted the elders, making their robes flutter and their long hair dance wildly. The golden energy overflowed like strands of light. Seeing this, the elders had to lean back to avoid it. A moment later, the 5 elders stood frozen, staring blankly at the sect leader. They heard him ask, "Now do you still think my guess was wrong?" With a serious expression, the sect leader felt proud of his precise deduction and analyzed, "The painting contains sword intent, which leaves only 2 possibilities. First, the artist himself has reached the level of sword intent. However, layman Qinglian is not a cultivator. So there is only one remaining possibility. The person in the painting can manifest supreme sword intent and imprint it onto the artwork. Therefore, the person in the painting is definitely that special envoy." The elder's eyes immediately sparkled with realization as they began to flatter him. "The sect leader's insight is as clear as fire, truly worthy of being our leader, to deduce so much information from just these few details. Sect leader, you are truly a godlike man." Thrilled by the praise, the sect leader laughed heartily. "Hey, naturally," but he quickly composed himself and announced solemnly, "There is another reason. This inspector dislikes fame and fortune. He only enjoys traveling, sightseeing, and experiencing the mortal world. He sometimes even sells national treasures bestowed by the king just for some spare change. I happened to acquire this painting by chance in the ancient city of Ginkgo." According to the shopkeeper, the person who sold the painting was extremely similar to the subject, and the style of the painting was also identical. "This perfectly fits the conduct of that master." Hearing this, one elder furrowed his brow, seemingly struck by a realization. "That is indeed true. There are rumors of masters traveling the wilderness who would even give away their flying swords to a farmer just for a piece of fruit," the female elder asked curiously. "Then, sect leader, how would you like us to befriend him?" Seeing that she had misunderstood his intent, the sect leader warned with a stern face, "No, absolutely no deliberate flattery. In fact, we must suppress this news. To those hidden masters who have seen it all, such petty tricks will only earn their contempt. If we can truly make contact, we should ask for guidance with a humble heart. Perhaps we can gain some goodwill." The sect leader was already gloating inwardly, stroking his goatee in self-satisfaction. I am truly a man of great wisdom. What would the sect do without me? Meanwhile, late at night in another location, Yi Ping sat cross-legged with his hands on his knees, his head slightly bowed in thought. He was still struggling to analyze the profound meaning within the secret manual Su Changyu had given him. The ancient god-fiend body-refining art cannot be practiced for now, it's too dangerous. As for whether I can use pills to stimulate spiritual power, I should consult eldest senior brother first. I mustn't be reckless. Suddenly, Shu Luokan appeared behind Yi Ping and called out, "Junior brother, look closely." With his hands behind his back and a neutral expression, he introduced himself. "I am the second senior brother of the sect, Shu Luokan. You may simply call me Senior Brother Luokan." Upon hearing this, Yi Ping turned to look, wondering secretly. Second senior brother actually came over on his own. He then stood up, cupped his hands in a respectful bow, and greeted him politely. "Greetings, Senior Brother Luokan." Shu Luokan crossed his arms, his eyes scrutinizing Yi Ping as he explained, "Why am I here? Junior brother, your eldest senior brother has some trivial matters to attend to for a while, so he asked me to teach you the art of alchemy." Hearing this, Yi Ping's mouth dropped open in surprise. Feeling a bit slighted, he thought, "Second senior brother, does eldest senior brother think my aptitude is too poor?" Seeing his dejected look, Shu Luokan offered some comfort, while not forgetting to poke fun at Su Changyu in the process. "Junior brother, your eldest senior brother means well, but it is his first time teaching after all. Don't take it to heart. Whether it's the immortal Tao or any other path, there is a master in every trade. Although your talent in the sword Tao is lacking, it doesn't mean you lack talent elsewhere. There's no need to be too sad." Yi Ping replied, "I understand, Senior Brother Luokan. I won't be sad." He even raised his clenched fist, showing a determination to fight through the storm. "In the future, I will practice my sword skills even harder. I must earn eldest senior brother's recognition." Beside him, Shu Luokan pointed a finger toward the sky, manifesting a streak of green airflow. Instantly, a massive alchemy cauldron descended from the heavens and appeared before him. Shu Luokan spread his hands to control the cauldron as it landed between them. He looked at Yi Ping with a cool gaze and announced, "All right, enough talk. Let's begin learning alchemy." Yi Ping's eyes shone with the light of determination as he replied, "Yes." With his hands behind his back, Shu Luokan looked at the bronze cauldron between them and said, "The 3,000 grand Taos are equal, however. The path of alchemy contains the mysteries of heaven and earth. Junior brother Yi, in your eyes, what kind of alchemist is the strongest?" Listening to his lecture, Yi Ping looked up and fell into deep thought. The strongest alchemist, what kind of existence is that? This question sounded familiar. He immediately thought of the countless cultivators behind him swinging their swords to leave afterimages in the air, and the scene of Su Changyu asking him, "What do you think is the ultimate of the sword?" In the darkness his eyes glowed and he gasped inwardly, "Is second senior brother also a hidden master?" Then Yi Ping interlaced his fingers and answered cautiously, "To answer Senior Brother Luokan, I believe the strongest alchemist is one who stands above all living beings. With a single pill, they can make countless powerhouses go mad with desire. No matter how unparalleled a genius is, they will eventually reach their end. But an alchemist can change fate against the heavens." Imagining Shu Luokan holding a pill that bloomed with green light like a scorching sun, he continued, "With a single life-extending pill, one could extend the life of a top-tier powerhouse by a century or even a millennium. Therefore, no matter how powerful a cultivator is, they must show deference to such an alchemist, even going so far as to flatter them, indirectly becoming the alchemist's combat strength." However, despite everything Yi Ping had said, Shu Luokan furrowed his brows and dismissed it. "You are too superficial, and your thinking is too narrow-minded." Hearing this, Yi Ping was shocked. His eyes widened as he argued, "Senior brother, is the strongest pill not something that can improve one's constitution? It can turn a mediocre person into a peerless genius and even enhance their luck, or even lead directly to ascension as an immortal." Standing against the moonlight, Shu Luokan countered coldly, "Still too superficial, let me tell you. The truly strongest alchemist no longer refines mere pills. They refine heaven and earth. Every pill refined is a world unto itself. That is the strongest alchemist." Yi Ping was dumbfounded, savoring his words. "Refining heaven and earth, a world in every pill. This, I read so many novels before I transmigrated, but I've never seen such a terrifying alchemist." In his imagination, a golden pill like a sun could even sway the fate of a small world. Yi Ping secretly questioned his reality. Everything becoming a pill, heaven and earth becoming a pill, the universe becoming a pill, everything in existence can be refined into a pill. This realm is too frightening. But soon his eyes lit up and he clenched his fists with extraordinary excitement. The path of alchemy is actually this powerful. It is not at all inferior to the sword Tao. I'm fired up again. On the surface, Yi Ping straightened his back and asked with forced composure, "Second senior brother hasn't reached this realm yet, right?" Hearing Shu Luokan reply, I'm almost there," sent Yi Ping's heart into a state of extreme shock. He broke into a cold sweat and pressed his palms together to calm his mind. He screamed internally, Another hidden master. What is going on with our sect? Is everyone here a peerless expert? There's no reason for second senior brother to lie to me. Meanwhile, Shu Luokan cleared his throat, breaking into a cold sweat because of a guilty conscience. Phew, that was a pretty good story. It had quite the flair. Is it because I've been around Su Changyu too long? But this isn't a good sign. Suddenly his eyes shifted and his blank face came up with an idea. Using heaven and earth as a pill. Refine it for me to see. Shu Luokan played the part of the mysterious master, placing one hand across his stomach and bowing slightly as he said, "However, you have never touched the path of alchemy, so for now I can only teach you the most basic alchemy cultivation method. Do you understand?" Yi Ping said enthusiastically. "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Naturally, I understand. Thank you for your guidance, senior brother." Seeing that he had successfully duped Yi Ping, he held up a finger and began his lesson. As the saying goes, every medicine has a side effect. Every pill in the world possesses toxicity, which even the top alchemist cannot fully eliminate. But the alchemy method I will teach you today is toxin-free alchemy. It has no toxicity and no side effects. Internally, however, Shu Luokan felt as if he were turning to stone, sweating profusely in a panic. If my fellow disciples knew how much I'm bluffing, they'd probably rip my mouth shut. Calm down, I have to keep the lie going. Thinking of a deity whose whole body was red, with golden light shining from his eyes and energy rising all around him, he continued his nonsense. The root of this pill toxicity lies in the medicinal ingredients. No matter how you refine them, the medicinal properties and the toxicity always coexist. If the toxicity is removed, the medicinal properties will dissipate as well. Shu Luokan's imagination ran wild as he envisioned a mystical scene of a deity hanging upside down, surrounded by purple energy. The core of toxin-free alchemy is that it requires no medicinal ingredients at all. The more he heard, the more dumbfounded Yi Ping became. He opened his mouth in surprise, thinking, "No medicinal ingredients? Then what do you use to refine?" Seeing Yi Ping's confusion, Shu Luokan asked, "Does it sound absurd to you?" Seeing his junior brother's face written all over with, "It actually does," he continued. "But remember, when faced with things they cannot comprehend, people often harbor doubt." He stared at the person before him, speaking with calm confidence. "Just like when you were still immortal, if someone told you there was a sword immortal in the world who could split the heavens with a single strike, would you have believed it?" Hearing this, Yi Ping suddenly saw the light and inferred the rest. "Second senior brother, I understand. This is the principle of the frog at the bottom of a well." Shu Luokan nodded in affirmation. In his mind, strange streams of purple energy flickered, coiling around evergreen plants like earthen dragons. He added that the vitality within medicinal herbs is in essence the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He then thought of the thin purple mist commonly seen across the continent. Shu Luokan explained that spiritual energy is pure at its inception, but during its evolution, it becomes contaminated by the 5 elements, condensing into turbid energy. He continued to envision a massive blue orb of energy churning in the heart of the ocean, explaining that so-called toxin-free alchemy involves discarding raw materials entirely and directly condensing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to refine supreme-grade pills. Yi Ping's eyes turned a pale blue once more. His mouth hung open as he murmured to himself, "Condensing top-grade pills without any medicinal ingredients?" He secretly analyzed it. Was this truly feasible? But upon careful thought, it was perfectly logical. Herbs were merely another form of transformed spiritual energy. If that was the case, why take the long way around? Once he understood, Yi Ping enthusiastically raised his concern. "By the way, senior brother, can someone like me, who lacks a spirit root, take chi refining pills to increase my spiritual power?" Upon hearing this, Shu Luokan replied nonchalantly, "It is possible, but no one does it." This left Yi Ping confused. "Why?" Shu Luokan stroked his clean-shaven chin, closing his eyes as he explained. "Because the medicinal effects are too potent, and spirit pills are extremely expensive. Sustaining one's spiritual veins in this manner requires a long-term consumption of pills. Even those great sects or immortal cultivation clans cannot afford such a staggering expense." Struck by this harsh reality, Yi Ping felt a wave of dejection, dark circles seemingly forming under his eyes as he lamented inwardly, "Sigh, it's just as I expected, but I'm still disappointed. What on earth should I do about my spiritual power?" Shu Luokan hadn't intended to keep bluffing, but he couldn't help himself. Shu Luokan spoke up, interrupting Yi Ping's thoughts. "All right, let's begin. I will first teach you the most basic alchemy technique." Yi Ping immediately responded with a loud affirmation. Seeing this, Shu Luokan's eyes sparkled with a green light as he thought with some amusement, "What a good kid. Su Changyu, oh Su Changyu, watch closely. This is what it means to be a model teacher. Sigh, you don't even have this much patience. How will you ever handle the position of sect leader in the future? Maybe you should just stop competing for the leadership. Time passed as night draped its veil over the land. Somewhere within the quiet forest mountain range, the woods were eerie, with white mist coiling around the treetops. Beneath the shade of the trees, Taihua Taoist and Su Changyu walked briskly toward the depths of the forest. Su Changyu suddenly said with concern, "Master, junior brother Luokan is at home taking care of our youngest junior brother by himself. Nothing will go wrong, right?" Taihua Taoist glanced at his eldest disciple and reassured him, "That boy Luokan will be fine. He has a steadfast character and an incredibly high threshold for pressure. No matter what happens, he can stay calm. There's no need to worry." Suddenly, a strange noise erupted from behind Su Changyu, making him jump in fright. Feeling something scurry past his back, Su Changyu whipped his head around and cried out in terror. Ah, what was Gu noise? At that moment a purple rat spirit leapt out and fled in a panic. Seeing this, Taihua Taoist laughed so hard his tears flowed, pointing at the red-faced Su Changyu in mockery. "Haha, you let a mere rat scare you like that? Are you even a cultivator? I told you there are no large demonic beasts around the quiet forest mountain range." However, before his words could fully land, a monster as massive as a mountain appeared out of thin air, baring its sharp claws and teeth as it looked down upon the two tiny figures. The first rays of dawn spilled over Yi Ping's residence atop the mountain peak. With bleary eyes, he let out a massive yawn and stretched his limbs to wake himself up. A physiological tear still clinging to the corner of his eye, gazing at the rising sun in the distance, Yi Ping felt a surge of poetic inspiration and recited, "At dawn I enter the ancient temple, the rising sun shines on the high forest, a winding path leads to a secluded spot, the meditation room is deep among flowers and trees, mountain light delights the birds, nature pool shadows clear the human heart, all sounds are hushed here save for the chime of bells and stones." But soon his expression clouded with worry. With a bitter face and hands on his hips, he let out a long sigh. "This world of cultivation truly is wonderful. Unfortunately, I have no spiritual power. Even though I learned the basics of alchemy yesterday, in the end, everything requires condensing spiritual energy. My fate remains unchanged." Yi Ping muttered to himself as he slowly descended the long stone steps. The most important thing now was to fill the gaps in his knowledge of cultivation. He decided to head to his master's library of scriptures. Even if he couldn't find a solution, learning more about the world of immortals would be greatly beneficial. Time flew by, and he soon reached his destination. Standing before the library of the Qingyun Dao sect, he looked at the building, which appeared far more bright and grand than the pile of broken bricks and tiles he had seen when he first arrived. Yi Ping felt a sense of profound emotion. "Hey, look at this simple and clean style. It's completely different from those famous Taoist temples outside." With a determined gaze and clenched fists, he marveled with an air of, "As expected. This is the true style of a hidden sect. External vanity is practically an insult to them." Then, looking at the single stick of incense burning in the censer in the middle of the courtyard, his imagination ran wild. Why is there only one stick of incense in the burner outside the main hall? Is it because the Qingyun Dao sect can't afford more? Yi Ping rubbed his hands together. His expression was full of smug pride, like a clever little fledgling. With a grin that reached his ears, he dismissed the thought. "Haha, clearly impossible. How could a sect be that poor?" He walked past the incense burner, staring at it for a long time as he constructed a narrative in his head. The ancients said that sincerity brings results. If one is sincere, a single stick is enough. If not, even burning 10,000 mountains of incense won't bring good fortune. Truly, there is knowledge everywhere, and the great Tao is hidden in all things. Having finished his mental gymnastics, Yi Ping composed himself and reached out to push open the red wooden doors of the library. He stepped inside. The dawn light was faint, and aside from the sunlight streaming in through the doorway, the interior was somewhat dim. However, it was enough for him to see the bookshelves that reached the ceiling. As Yi Ping toured the room, he scanned the titles on the shelves: 10 Dragons and 10 Elephants, Primordial Spirit Art, The Immortal Tao's Double Pupil Opening Stance, Perfect Development of Supreme Anomalies, The True Dragon's Supreme Divine Ability. Moving to another shelf, he saw secret manuals stacked in 3 rows and murmured, Heavenly Emperor Sword Decree, Method of 3,600 Immortal Apertures, 36 Heavenly Transformations, 7 Earthly Fiend Techniques. He listed these magnificently named manuals like he was counting his own treasures. Yi Ping's brow furrowed deeper and deeper. His face turned pale, and his expression twisted as he lamented, "These things look incredibly intimidating just from their names. To think that manuals of this level are just left out on the shelves without any protection." Then his attitude did a 180-degree turn. His eyes sparkled like stars, and he shouted with the excitement of someone finding a rare treasure, "Is this what a hidden sect is like? I love it." However, a second later, he turned serious, suppressing his excitement while breaking into a cold sweat. He comforted himself. "Yi Ping, you must stay calm. The more excited you are, the easier it is to lose yourself. Stay calm, stay calm." He closed his eyes, exhaled, and fought to regain his inner peace. Having achieved the state of not letting his heart be swayed by secret manuals, Yi Ping picked up a book and told himself, "Eat your meal one bite at a time, walk your path one step at a time." Before he knew it, an entire day had passed in the library. The next day, the first light of dawn filtered into the ancient rooms of the Qingyun Dao sect. Yi Ping glanced at the light and murmured, "Is it already dawn?" He was currently sitting at a desk flipping through pages one by one. Resting his chin on his hand, he sighed, feeling like he had just gotten into the flow of things. But unfortunately, he had to start his training again today. However, Yi Ping's day and night were not wasted. He summarized his gains and could tentatively say he had a slight understanding of the world's basic situation and its cultivation techniques. In his imagination, the cultivation world consisted of great sects perched on high mountain peaks hidden in the morning mist. Yi Ping felt troubled. He hadn't expected the power of the imperial dynasties in this world to be so immense. Although they only controlled mortals, their prestige actually outweighed that of the immortal sects. But thinking about it from another angle, it made sense. Cultivation resources were likely all in the hands of the imperial power. As time passed, the social strata became fixed, making it very difficult to change. He sat there despondently, one hand over his chest, looking up at the sky with a look of utter dejection, as if he had lost his birth certificate. If I had known, why would I have joined the Immortal Ascension Assembly? I could have just taken the imperial exams, one top scholar, and joined the court. Would I really have lacked a way to cultivate then? Speaking of which, I wonder what happened to those calligraphies and paintings I kept in my room. Thinking of this, he became even more depressed. Yi Ping cocked an eyebrow and pouted. But if I had really joined the court, wouldn't I have missed the chance to enter a hidden sect? I suppose this is what the books mean by a blessing in disguise. Suddenly, a graceful young woman walked up behind Yi Ping and called out, "Little junior brother." Giving him a fright, Chen Lingru looked at Yi Ping with dreamy eyes, leaning forward slightly with her hands on her knees. She asked, "What are you doing here? You've been here for a while, but we haven't been formally introduced yet." Then she puffed out her chest and introduced herself with full confidence. "I am your little senior sister, Chen Lingru. Hello." Seeing such a beauty for the first time in these deep mountains, Yi Ping was struck dumb. Blushing, he thought, "Little senior sister is so beautiful." Seeing his face turn beet red, Chen Lingru leaned closer and asked curiously, Why is your face so red?" This made Yi Ping even more bashful as he repeatedly denied it. Nothing, it's just that the weather is too hot." Suddenly she clenched her fist and leaned in to cheer him on happily. "Little junior brother, you must work hard. In a few days I will also teach you the supreme great Tao." These words were like a ray of light flashing through the dark space of Yi Ping's heart. He wondered to himself, the supreme great Tao, could this little senior sister also be? Yi Ping wiped away a bead of cold sweat and scratched his head, dismissing his wild thought. Haha, no way, no way. Yi Ping, what are you thinking? This little senior sister looks even younger than you. How could she be a peerless master? This left Chen Lingru covered in question marks, unable to understand his attitude. After finishing his internal confusion, Yi Ping looked at her and asked for guidance. "Oh right, little senior sister, I happen to have something I'd like to ask you about." Chen Lingru asked. "What is it? Go ahead." Yi Ping pulled out a book and asked with a look of pure innocence, "Can this secret manual be used for cultivation?" Chen Lingru wore a look that questioned her very existence. She glanced sideways at it and read the title, Method of 3,600 Immortal Apertures. Then, holding the manual, she smiled and said, "Of course you can. Is there any reason you couldn't practice this?" However, Yi Ping broke into a cold sweat and voiced his concern. "If I practice without spiritual power, will I suffer from cultivation deviation?" Chen Lingru turned around, her eyes bright as she smiled reassuringly. No, not at all. This is just a very basic technique. How could you suffer from deviation?" In reality, she was feeling extremely guilty. She thought with a squinting fake smile, "These are all fakes. It would be a miracle if you actually deviated." Seeing Yi Ping with his head down, looking as if his soul had left his body, Chen Lingru called out, "Little junior brother, what's wrong, little junior brother?" Little did she know that at this moment he was simply moved to tears of joy. He cried out in his heart, "Fantastic, my spirit root is finally saved." Noticing Yi Ping's strange behavior, Chen Lingru asked worriedly, "Little junior brother, what happened to you?" She heard him reply, "It's nothing, senior sister, I just finally found a cultivation method that suits me." Chen Lingru felt happy for Yi Ping. Putting on a gentle front, she encouraged him, "That's great then, you must work even harder and believe in yourself. Oh, by the way, don't call me little senior sister anymore. Just call me senior sister Lingru." Yi Ping stared at her blankly and replied as he turned to leave, "Okay, senior sister Lingru." She looked back and waved goodbye. "I was just passing by. I'll head back now." In truth, her heart was filled with anxiety. "I can't chat for too long. If I keep going, I'll definitely blow my cover. Better laugh it off and get out of here." Watching Yi Ping say goodbye to her, senior sister Lingru goodbye. Left alone in the library, Yi Ping opened the secret manual with a heart full of immense joy. Looking at the mysterious deity drawn on the blue cover, he murmured to himself. The content of this method of 3,600 immortal apertures was generally very simple. He imagined a celestial crane with blue feathers and a red beak, its eyes flashing with fire, while a purple-eyed wolf and a red-eyed tiger roared, and a mysterious man whose eyes glowed in the dark of night. Yi Ping learned that the book claimed the human body is like a magical beast, concealing a vast treasure trove that is simply sealed within the acupoints. If one can open these apertures, the body will automatically absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Just like a magical beast, he then imagined a man standing on a mountain peak opening his arms to summon a whirlwind from the sky. He analyzed, every time an immortal aperture is opened, the speed of absorbing spiritual energy will double. If one can open all 3,600 apertures, their cultivation speed will be 3,600 times that of an ordinary person. Yi Ping's expression suddenly became more serious than ever before. He frowned and thought, the biggest problem is my terrible cultivation aptitude. Having no spirit root essentially means my ability to absorb spiritual energy is extremely weak. If I can master this method, wouldn't I be able to make up for my innate deficiencies? Thinking of the 4 thunder heavenly swords, symbolized by 4 top-tier divine dragons, Yi Ping thought, I already have a preliminary understanding of the 4 thunder sword technique. Remembering the 12-armed deity that appeared in his sea of consciousness, he listed his assets with confidence. Primordial gods and demons body refining scripture. Immediately after, the image of Shu Luoshan's supreme furnace flashed through Yi Ping's mind. He counted them off. And second, Senior Brother's poison-free alchemy. Everything is just missing spiritual power. His eyes widened and he stood agape, his imagination running wild. If I had spiritual power, just how strong would I become? It's practically unimaginable. Yi Ping charged straight out of the library, telling himself, stop thinking, I need to practice the immortal aperture method first. My time to shine has finally arrived. At the same time, in another part of the Jinglin mountain range, an earth-shattering explosion was occurring deep within the forest. Taihua Daoran had been beaten black and blue. He lay sprawled out in a deep crater he had made upon impact. Eyes rolled back, his fate uncertain. As he struggled to lift his head, he saw Su Changyu standing beside him with sword in hand. Ahead of them, a massive tiger-shaped monster glared at them, intent on wiping them both out. Taihua Daoran gritted his teeth and mustered enough strength to shout an order, Changyu, run! I still have 1 Earth Escape talisman in my pocket, otherwise we're both going to meet our ends here today. However, Su Changyu stood resolutely in front of Taihua Daoran and raised his long sword. He said firmly, what kind of nonsense is that? You expect me to be an ungrateful bastard? Not a chance. In Taihua Daoran's eyes, Su Changyu's back looked incredibly grand. Su Changyu continued, just stay there and don't move. It's not over yet, master. Seeing Su Changyu's righteous display, Taihua Daoran felt like an old father watching his eldest son suddenly grow up. He thought with emotion, when did this guy's back become so tall and imposing? Then he suddenly let out a cry of surprise. He saw spell energy like lightning begin to flicker on Su Changyu's sword. Su Changyu looked dashing and heroic. Taihua Daoran sat on the ground completely bewildered, unable to believe his eyes. He wondered if this brat had been hiding some secret ultimate move. Even if he could fight above his level, there was no way he could win. And yet, why was there this inexplicable sense of security? Suddenly, Su Changyu charged forward, delivering a lightning sunder strike straight at the tiger monster's face, shouting, die! His eyes glowed with an unyielding will. Su Changyu gritted his teeth and roared, his pupils shrinking until the whites of his eyes nearly bulged out, his mouth wide open. Amidst a blinding light, Su Changyu was instantly disconnected. With just a single swipe of the tiger demon's front paw, he and his sword were sent flying into the air before he could even touch a hair on the beast. Finally, Su Changyu landed face first with his backside sticking up toward the sky, looking utterly pathetic. This scene was a total blow to Taihua Daoran. His eyes bulged so much they nearly split his sockets and his mouth fell open to reveal a row of white teeth. He shrieked, "That's it?" Taihua Daoran then sat there like a wooden chicken, looking at the disheveled Su Changyu, who was still trying to boast despite having lost his soul. Su Changyu mumbled, "All right, I looked cool. I can die with no regrets now." Taihua Daoran roared in frustration. Was it really necessary to try and act that cool? Just as the two were dazed, the tiger demon wagged its tail and opened its bloody maw, condensing pink sonic spiritual energy, preparing to send them to meet their ancestors. At the same time, a sphere of spiritual energy crackling with lightning formed in its mouth, its light illuminating the surroundings. Seeing this, the master and disciple were moved to tears, sending each other final words via mental transmission. "Master, see you in the next life. I'll be your disciple again." "Forget it. In the next life I don't want a boastful disciple like you anymore." However, before they could reincarnate, a goddess suddenly appeared out of thin air. She shouted sternly, "What kind of monster dares to act so brazenly before me?" Then, the tiger demon was smashed to pieces by a burst of golden spiritual light. Its body tore apart as golden energy erupted from within. Its massive corpse was even blasted into the air right in front of Taihua Daoran. Immediately following that, an explosion like an atomic bomb roared and thick smoke obscured the sun. Taihua Daoran and Su Changyu sat paralyzed on the ground, watching the debris and dust fall from the sky, too terrified to speak. Su Changyu's body went stiff as he glanced to the side, his mouth hung open in shock as he cried out, "Those clothes, she's..." This concludes the current episode. Please remember to follow the channel so you don't miss the next one.